It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, normally along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. But Billy was having a fun night at Red Rocks last night. He's taking the morning off, and joining us is Conservative Mama. She does a lot of great videos. You probably follow her on Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter. She's going to be live in studio providing a whole lot of insight today on the Donald Trump interview that took place, the all-ladies Donald Trump interview, plus the disastrous Kamala Harris interview that took place yesterday. So we've got a whole morning set up for you of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. Phone lines are open. Give us a call at 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. Conservative Mama, good morning.
Oh, good morning to you. It's good to be here. It's
Glad
quite early.
Yeah, it's quite a shock to the system.
It is.
But
Jeez.
Glad to have you here. Give folks a little bit of your background, then we'll get to news and comment with Blake Olson.
Yeah, well, my name is Rachel, but I go by Conservative Mama online. I have a background in acting and directing and all that stuff. Got into satire. That's kind of where I landed, doing a lot of satire, ridicule, going after, I think that's a great way to go after the left and just kind of put on display what, a lot of people just kind of, okay, yeah, go along with it. But then when you call it out in satire, I feel like it's very effective, especially for those people in the middle. So that's what I've been doing for years, and I absolutely love it. It allows me to create, and
the left provides just unlimited content for you.
Unlimited content.
Like the Babylon Bee. That's why we all love the Babylon Bee. So Conservative Mama will be with us throughout the morning. If you'd like to give us a call, 303-696-1971. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Conservative Mama. This is going to be a lot of fun. Hey, did you guys happen to see, before I get into this, did you happen to see one of the greatest videos I've ever seen yesterday? Obama and Biden at the funeral.
Hysterical.
And they put the voices over onto
so well done.
It was excellent. Yes.
I'm going to try to play it, but I'm going to have to beep out about 6 things.
Yes. You got a little spicy on that one.
So, Conservative Mama, you like that one?
I absolutely loved it. I actually showed that to my husband right before we went to sleep. I was like, you have to see this. This is hilarious. So, yes, I did.
I can't show it to my wife because she'll kick me out of bed if I do. So. You're lucky. But good to have you on.
By the way, to all the listeners out there that sway to Bill's side of the political aisle, it's going to require you stepping up and giving us a call and defending your worldview, because, man, it's a little conservative heavy today.
Yeah.
Especially with Conservative Mama.
Kind of unfair. Yes. And then Kelly's back there. Kelly Michael's here. Right. So, come on. I mean, the heavyweights are in, right?
That's right.
And I'm not talking about my weight, I promise.
No.
Or yours, Kelly. All right. Well, good to have you in, and we're going to have some fun this morning, no doubt. And I can't believe Billy actually went to a concert. I didn't know he liked music.
Who was playing?
I don't know. It's like the question. Third cousin of somebody's backwoods father. I mean, he knows these details. And I was talking to Bill yesterday about this because it's fun to watch him. There's this level of kind of brilliance of Bill, and when you get into music, you watch his brain light up in a way, and and he goes into details about what they studied in middle school that prepared them to become the saxophonist that they, and you're just like, bro, I don't think the way you do.
No.
I don't have the passion the way you do, but it is so fun to watch you light up that way. Yeah,
incredible.
It's great. So
it's like Kamala with cooking. Have you seen her with cooking?
Does she do
the
that?
minute you mention cooking with Kamala, she's just like, yes, this is my thing.
Right. Bacon and pancakes.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
And I'll give her some credit.
Indian food.
She can crack an egg with one hand, and that's impressive.
Yeah, that is. I saw that.
Usually
video.
you have to do the two. She just
No
so I was like,
doubt.
all right, this might be her thing. She's
Billy and music and
skilled at it.
Kamala and food. There you
Yeah.
go.
She's wide-ranging talent, and I know Billy just missed that interview last night. He couldn't. He hates that he missed that and had to go to a concert.
Oh, yeah.
He can't wait to talk to him. All right, I'll stop. I'll get back to you guys in just a second. 53 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 81 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, angry Kamala Khan shows up late for an interview on Fox News Channel with Brett Baer and then starts slinging the slop.
Exhausted of Brett.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
I think that's the line right there. Over the last decade, right?
Well, that and let me see if I can pull it up here. This one, just play this on repeat till November.
you got to
Happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah,
You got to
happened
take
during his-
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah,
You got to
happened
take
during his-
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah,
You got to
happened
take
during his-
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
That is awesome. And that was her response to the transgender
Yes.
criminals that we're paying for. Oh, man, that was awesome. Brian Stelter, one of your favorites on CNN, thought Kamala Khan rocked it.
I think this strategy from Harris was a Google strategy. She wanted Fox viewers to start to Google some of the things she was saying because some of the comments she was making in this interview are foreign to the Fox audience. For example, General Mark Milley saying Trump is a fascist to the core. That's barely been covered on Fox News. So she was able to get some of those talking points in. This was the most adversarial interview Kamala Harris has probably ever done. Instead of getting to debate Trump again, she got to debate Brett Baer. And a lot of viewers are going to come away saying, wow, she's willing to do that. That's a sign of toughness and strength.
Yeah, a sign of toughness to turn this country into a communist hellhole. Baer told Dana Perino he was getting the hard rap from her staff about 25 minutes in.
Dana, you've been on the other side. You've been on the rapper as a press secretary interviewing a president. And, you know, I'm talking like 4 people waving their hands like it's got to stop. So, Martha, final. Yeah. I had to dismount there at the end. There's so many things, and she maybe should do more of these.
Madam Vice President,
And
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the
It's
time.
good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He was way too nice to her, in my opinion. But he did a great job, and some people will like her toughness, I guess.
Nobody will. I mean, they're lying. Come on.
I
That was a
agree.
disaster. She was
That
unlikable,
was.
incompetent, overwhelmed, out of place, angry, frustrated, unprepared,
Yes.
and unpresidential. And
True.
I can just. I worked media. I was the media coordinator for the Senate Republican Conference. It was my job to put 55 Republicans on radio and television every single day at the United States Senate. And I know that feeling of the talent you're with doesn't realize the disaster that is taking place. And so because they've gotten into a tunnel. And so you're like waving them off. Time to go, time to go. And the 4 of them desperately trying to pull her out of what was a career ending interview. I could just I can imagine what's happening
And
there.
she was late. She was
Yeah, of
late.
course.
Of course.
Intentionally done. Don't you think that was intentionally
Yeah,
done? It was a
I
short in the
agree.
time frame. So she was like, she just had a few minutes.
Yeah.
She couldn't do a whole
Busy,
30
busy.
minutes. Come on.
That's true.
Right. No, that's a great point.
So she
Could you
comes rolling
imagine
in
her?
late. Yes.
Right. Like 90 minutes or an hour? No way.
No. She's like, get me in and out as fast as possible. I'll
Yep.
show up a little late.
No
course.
doubt. No doubt. I agree with you. It was by design. Early voting begins today in North Carolina, a key swing state where many are still recovering from Helene, some 400 plus early voting sites will be open across the state's 100 counties. Students at CSU returned to class after 2 back-to-back safety alerts. In the first one, police found a person dead inside a dorm room Wednesday on the Fort Collins campus, but aren't revealing any details. That triggered a shelter in place for about 90 minutes. Hours later, another one was issued when someone was attacked with a knife last night. Police searched for the suspect, but say that he ran off. A man has been convicted for the murder of a woman who died after he assaulted her in a Denver parking garage in 2021. Randy Hausch was found guilty Wednesday on 5 felony charges, which included first-degree murder and attempted sexual assault. Video of the assault of Gertrude Seawalker was found by authorities, with Hausch seen following her into a parking garage. He's set for sentencing in January. Onlookers gathered outside the Buenos Aires Hotel Wednesday, where former One Direction band member Liam Payne fell from a balcony to his death. Fans started to show up after news of the shocking death spread, setting up a vigil to the musician. The circumstances around his death are still under investigation. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills. Locally owned and operated since 1954. Online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Thursday night football tonight. Broncos in New Orleans to take on the Saints. 51 in North Glen, 50 in Glendale, 53 in Denver. And Jeff and Billy will continue, but we've got the conservative mama here with us. It's going to be a great morning. It is Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The weather will be changing, but for another day, it'll still be mild. Temperatures today will likely make the 70s under partly cloudy skies. Increasing clouds later on. Tonight, turning colder. Chance for showers developing late. Then colder Friday, 50s and low 60s and falling with developing showers. Friday night, Saturday into Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out today. Sitting in with me is conservative mama. She's got a big following. She likes to use satire to lambast the left. And you can follow her on YouTube, Instagram, X, probably Facebook too. But who knows? Mark Zuckerberg might have shut that down. But I don't really post over on Facebook anymore. I'm like, here are my kids. That's it. And it's only for family. So
it used to be fun on Facebook, and then he took all the fun away.
And then he kind of like wants to be a libertarian now.
He's trying to change his image.
Ride waves with American flags.
He's got some publicist that's like, okay, let's remake you.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
You have a career in Hollywood. Now you are in Colorado.
I don't know if I'd say career.
But you were in Hollywood for a while.
I was in Hollywood for a while. I did a lot of the whole scene. I was telling you earlier, I kind of saw the underbelly. I worked for a very well-known celebrity and kind of saw the seedy side of Hollywood that a lot of people don't see.
Well, we're seeing it with Puff Daddy these days.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's all
for
coming
real.
out.
That's the real take on it.
So she's going to be joining us. You can call us at 303-696-1971 or text the show on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. We are going to be covering Kamala Harris's disastrous Fox News interview. It's done. She's over. DJT's going to win it. I'm calling it. I don't think she's going to recover from that. And, when you look over the history of losing presidential elections, with the exception of Donald Trump, I guess, they don't come back from it. Al Gore, Joe Lieberman, all these folks, George H.W. Bush. And I think the polls have shifted. I think the ground has shifted. I think DJT takes it 20 days from now, 19 days from now. That's my feeling. And look, I've gone back and forth. Yeah. After the RNC, I thought Donald Trump was for sure going to win. And then the DNC comes along and I'm like, wow, the Democrats did a good job of Oprahifying Kamala. They made her your gal pal.
Yes.
Julia Roberts, Ben Stiller, Chris Rock. They're all there. Right. And then they Obama-fied her. They made it a historic election. You can right the historic wrongs of this nation by simply electing somebody based upon their skin color.
Right.
So I came out of the DNC going, well, I think Trump's got a real challenge here.
What just happened is kind of like, I was like, wow.
The machine kicked up.
Yeah, they took out Joe and put in Kamala, and it's just like, we're just like, and then preach to us about democracy. It's amazing. I'm like, what just happened? I'm sorry. And she went from the most unliked vice presidential person ever to now like our beloved like sung hero here. It's remarkable.
But now I feel like we're 19 days out, I think, from the election.
Yeah.
And Trump's locked it up. I mean, granted, something big could happen, I guess, in the next 19 days. But if the election were held today, I think Donald Trump's the president. What do you think?
And I totally think that. But then I have this side of me that's like, I don't know. I feel like the globalists, the elite, the real swamp. I don't know. I feel like they've got something else planned.
Right, that they're not just going to let this happen.
Yeah, no. They're everything is. They're kind of like they've worked so hard to get to this point. They're almost at the ability to shut down free speech altogether if we didn't have X and Rumble. So they're like, oh, now we're just going to give it up. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I want to think, oh no, we've got this. But then I don't know. And I've been following Heidi Ganahl, and she's been talking about the machines here,
right?
Wi-Fi
connected
connection
to the Wi-Fi.
Like, yeah. So it's all of it's like, I'm like, wait a minute. I would love to think, yes, we've got it, and that's my positive side. But then there's that gut feeling side that you're like, I don't know.
I think you're probably right about it. Give us a call. Let us know. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. All right, so let's get into the Kamala Harris Brett Baier interview that took place yesterday. This gives you a sense of how it went.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system.
The point is you won't answer the question.
How many?
Right.
How many?
Right.
I was sitting with my daughter, and she was like, she didn't answer the question. And my daughter's 11. She's like, well, she didn't say how many. We want to know how many. Like how many?
And you're the second person in charge of the executive branch of the United States of America, which oversees the protection of our borders. It's not Congress that oversees the protection of borders. It's not the U.S. Supreme Court that does. It is the executive branch. You're number 2 in charge. How many people have gotten away in this country illegally? Like, that's like the basic job.
Yeah. You should know. You should you should be in contact with Border Control and know.
But she doesn't want to answer that. She doesn't want to answer that question.
No.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad because I know, and most probably listeners know, this was done intentionally.
Well, you're looking at 10 million.
Yeah.
On the low side. Trump thinks it's closer to 20 million under their particular administration over the last 3.5 years. And I've watched now numerous interviews of Kamala Harris try to figure out a way around the immigration issue. So first it was, do you remember this? Do you remember the day they were elected and they were like restoring America's place in the world by allowing untold numbers of illegal immigrants, and like they celebrated it, right? Like, look at all the repeal of all the stuff that Trump did.
They got rid of the stay in Mexico policy.
Right.
They re-implemented catch and release. They stopped the border wall.
Yeah.
Like
they celebrated it.
Oh yeah.
And then you end up with all these problems. CBS News, 60 Minutes gets into it. Why did it take you 3.5 years to try to solve it? And they blame Trump. Look, I've been in politics long enough. Maybe I just have a different tact on this. But what's wrong with a politician saying we got it wrong?
Yeah.
My goodness, we've got to fix this. I'm set to try to change.
Right.
Why can't they do that?
I don't know. Especially after you mentioned the women that have been violated and murdered.
Yeah.
Because of this, I would think you'd say, I am so sorry. Like, there are moments that we get it right. There are moments that we get it wrong. And this is something that we got wrong. And we apologize and we are going to make it right. And we're doing that now. And then, go off on your tangent about how the bill, even though that Border Patrol bill did nothing.
Is a problem in itself.
Yeah, I mean, but like, go off on that tangent and hope that they don't fact check you. I mean, that's what I would have done. But
yeah, in this case, she continues to dance around it. And in fact, let me pull up. I think I got the wrong audio on this, Kelly, because I don't think the audio is 26 minutes for.
That was the whole interview.
That was the whole interview, but we'll figure it out. But she gets asked to apologize for the names, and Brett Baier specifically names people like Lake and Riley. And asks her to apologize. And she does the kind of, I'm sorry for your loss type of thing. Like, I have no responsibility on it.
No.
Did you find that moment offensive?
I found it, oh my goodness, if you were a parent or someone that was directly impacted by this, I'd be throwing stuff at the television. I mean, the person that you loved is now gone because of Kamala and Joe Biden's policies that they implemented in not securing our border. And that's where I get lost on this, because I know people that are going to vote for Kamala. I know them. And I'm like, do you not care about my daughters? Do you not care about their safety? I'm doing this for my daughters. We hear that all it's all because of the abortion side of it. But what about the women's and sports side? What about them being safe to go out and go for a run in the morning and returning to you?
Right.
I mean, there's so many aspects of protecting your daughters from having to change next to men in their locker rooms. I mean, the protection side of me as a mom, all I care about is protecting my kids. And I do not see Kamala Harris as in any way, shape, or form trying to protect me or my family at all. She makes us more vulnerable. And so I would have been outraged.
It was definitely one of the stronger moments in the debate, I think, or in the interview, and it was kind of a debate, but when she gets pressed to apologize to the families who have lost loved ones, and then Brett Baier plays a clip of the mother saying
Jocelyn,
that it was her policies that led to the death of her daughter, and the response from Kamala Harris is, I'm sorry for your loss.
I'm sorry for your loss. Like, she had nothing to do with it.
I think Kelly can pull that up. There you go. Sorry, I screwed that up. I exported the entire thing. Perfect. You're the man. There it is.
Mm.
Thanks for getting that. No responsibility.
No.
So the immigration is one of the top issues.
Mm.
They took a position of celebrating early on, day one, of all the things they were doing to stop Donald Trump. Now they're in this emergency mode of trying to rewrite history about what they did, somehow claim that they're on top of immigration. And then when they're confronted with the family members that have been killed as a result of their policies, they do this half-hearted apology.
Yeah.
And to your point, when we're talking about daughters, the only thing they offer daughters, the future daughters in this country, is the ability to kill their own offspring.
Yeah.
They don't talk about safety, the ability to run free, to be safe in your own locker rooms, to play sports without boys slamming a volleyball in your face.
Giving you like permanent brain damage.
Yeah.
I know.
And so I look, the base of the Democrat Party right now is female. And I'm guessing you're a woman.
Yeah.
I think I can define
I identify
it, Rachel.
as a woman.
Right. Why are they
Stop
sticking? Why are they sticking with the Democrats?
I think, oh gosh, I mean, you could get into all sorts of stuff on this, but I think that the brainwashing that takes place with college educated women in universities is why.
Right?
I mean, I would attribute it to that. It's this feminist, radical, left-wing ideologies that they instill in women, that, the man is trying to stomp on you, right? The man is trying to have one up on you, and you got to push back and you got to fight back, and they want to have a say over your body, and it's your body, and it's very and they get fed that repeatedly. I mean, I remember sitting in a college course, and it was a women's studies class, and I mean, literally the entire time this woman stood up there and talked about the patriarchy and how evil men were. And so you have an entire group, voting block of women that have been told this repeatedly over and over again, and they're raging.
And they're not getting married.
They're not getting married. They're not having children.
Right.
They're angry. And to be honest with you, I told my husband, the majority of women that I know that are all in on Kamala are white women, college educated, and over 50.
Yeah, I think that's a big
when
part
you're
of our
driving
base.
in the car and I see the Harris walls, I'm like, I always I tell my kids, I'm like, let's see who's driving this car. And it's always this, this white woman, just blah, like, and I say, pray for her. Let's pray for her, guys.
Joining us in studio is conservative mama. Billy's out today. He's having a ton of fun at Red Rocks last night. He'll be back with us tomorrow. And to all those that think that somehow the format of the show is changing, absolutely not. We'll have Bill with us. Conservative mama is kind enough to join us today, hanging out. Look, want to talk to you about a great upcoming event at Colorado Christian University, an exclusive luncheon and lecture on Friday, November 15th, featuring the 48th Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and his wife, former Second Lady Karen Pence. In partnership with the Centennial Institute and CCU President Eric Hogue, this event offers a unique opportunity to engage in conversation with Vice President Pence, one of America's most dedicated public servants, sharing his insights on the future of the conservative movement. I want to remind you, this is November 15th, post-election. There's going to be a ton of analysis, and you can have that with the former Vice President of the United States. Be among the first to experience the new Armstrong Center as CCU launches its President Speaker Series on this historic occasion. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. Limited tickets are available for breakfast with Karen Pence, lunch with Mike Pence, and morning and evening lectures. Throughout the day, you'll engage in conversations on leadership, faith, and service with these distinguished guests. Please join CCU on November 15th for these events with Mike and Karen Pence. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. That's ccu.edu/Pence. Give us a call. Join the conversation on Kamala's disastrous Fox News interview. Maybe you thought she gave just as good as Brett Baer gave. We'd love to hear from you, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line, 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Awayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Troopers in Texas apprehended a group of 204 illegal migrants in Maverick County, including 57 unaccompanied children, ages 8 through 17. According to DPS, the children were carrying pieces of paper that had addresses in different states on them. Also in the group, 3 migrants with a nexus to terrorism. They were from the Republic of Mali, which is in West Africa. DPS saying that the pictures show the humanitarian reality of the dangerous journey the kids make from their home countries to the U.S., adding that criminal predators exploit and control them. Nebraska's High Court has ruled that people with felony records can register to vote in a decision that has major implications for the upcoming election. The state Supreme Court ruled that the Secretary of State did not have the authority to say a state law that restored the voting rights of people who have been convicted of a felony was unconstitutional. The official's order could have kept thousands of people in Nebraska from voting in the November 5th election. Many live in the Omaha area district that will offer the presidential candidates one electoral vote in a dead heat race. The district voted for the Democrat presidential candidate in 2008 and 2020. A Democrat in North Carolina has resigned after he was arrested for ripping Trump 2024 signs from yards and allegedly stealing them. The party announcing via Facebook that the 68-year-old had resigned. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out today, and joining me is Rachel. She goes by the name of Conservative Mama. You've probably seen her satire videos on YouTube. She's got a big following online. She likes to make fun of the libs.
I do.
They give you
It's
lots
quite
of
enjoyable.
content.
Somebody's got to, right? I mean, come on.
I mean, it helps us cope, especially in Colorado when we have no power. Kamala, disastrous interview yesterday. I think she's done. She was unlikable, incompetent, overwhelmed, out of place, angry, frustrated, unprepared, and unpresidential. The left desperately trying to salvage it. Well, she gave back to Brett Baer. Look, I understand the idea of doing hostile interviews. Kyle Clark does that to every conservative out there. But if you look at Gabe Evans' performance, for instance, he tripped up in one spot. It was a totally unfair question. It was a hostile question. But the rest of the interview, he did very, very well. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, there was not a single moment where I went, wow, she's great. Listen to this audio on sex changes, because that's what we're talking about in this campaign.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what, you got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's real. He spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote.
So they don't understand why the ad is so effective. The reason the ad is so effective is it shows that the libs are just totally out of touch. Like, this is what you prioritize?
Right.
We're going to spend tax dollars on changing the sex of incarcerated illegal immigrants?
Right. We've got veterans on the streets.
Right.
We've got people. Oh my gosh. I hear countless stories about what happened with this Hurricane Helene and the people in North Carolina. And we're giving sex changes to illegal immigrants. I mean, that's where money's going. I don't know anyone that could be like, yes, this is good. Sign me up. I mean, stop. It's absolutely ludicrous. It's insane.
And that's why the ad connects. It has nothing to do with, concerns about maybe the total amount of money spent or anything like that. It just showcases that their priorities are so out of skew. Let's go to the phone lines. Lola, Nebraska, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out, but Conservative Mama's in the studio.
Hi, good morning. And how refreshing it is to hear a true conservative on there with you, Jeff. I honestly believe you better check Billy's car because I think it's got a Harris Walls sticker on the back.
I don't know who he's going to vote for. I don't know. To be fair to Bill, I don't know if he's going to be all the way in the Harris Walls camp. He likes to have his freedom to go back and forth. But go ahead.
But let me get to the interview. Do we not have anybody in the media who is courageous enough to follow up? When you asked her, or when she was asked regarding the number of illegals that have entered the the United States. You know, when she goes off script, why don't they come back and say, but I'm not talking about Trump's record. I'm talking about your record. We have nobody who sticks up except the Christian ones, which she'll never, interview.
I thought Brett did a pretty fair job yesterday, but look, it is her superpower, Lola, to lull you into trying to figure out or to try to remember what your original question was to begin with, right? You end up in like a whole different zip code at the end of the conversation. Go ahead, Lola.
Jeff, when you say that he did a fair, you didn't say just fair, you said something maybe fair, a little fair, about his questions. His questions are good. They're right on, but there's no follow-up. It's like, what's the point of asking if you're not searching for the answer and getting the answer? They have no courage.
I do think it's part of being a politician is your ability to obfuscate and move on to other issues. But
well, why doesn't someone say that? I mean, I've heard people say, well, look, I'm asking about your record. You've been there 3.5 years, 4 years now. What are you doing? I'm not asking about Trump. We all know Trump's policies, or most do. You don't have to, tell me I don't know. That's what disgusts me. It makes me.
I think you would be a fine interviewer, Lola. It'd be fun to hear. What do you think, conservative mama?
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Lola. Where is the follow-up? I would like to hear the follow-up. I wanted to hear a number. I wanted her to say a number. And of course she didn't. I do think that she's extremely skilled, though, at lulling you. I mean, I will find myself listening to her. I'm like, she's talking, but I don't know what she's saying. But she sounds like she's saying something, but I don't know what it is. And it's
like a form of hypnotism.
Yeah, I feel like it's hypnotism. It's very bizarre. It's like she can't put you in a trance. And you're like, yeah, I guess she answered it, but she didn't. It's just weird.
Conservative mama, we all know. I mean, those who have a little bit of, we have a little wisdom. We know she's not answering. But see, nobody comes back and said, and you can say it nicely. I'm a little more, I just shoot it right out there. However, hey, see if you can't get more times you can be in Billy's spot.
Oh.
Hey, we're happy to have you, Lola. Thank you so much. Bill is just out for the day. He'll be back tomorrow. And Lola, you can call to debate him the entire time. We'll be sure to have some fun with that. Great call, Lola. Look, do you know that over the last year, over 49% of homes listed do not sell with the real estate agent who took the initial listing? That cost home sellers thousands of dollars in lower offers and painful holding costs. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams have a track record of selling homes fast and get their home sellers 6.1% more money on average, netting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. They do this using their proven proprietary system and guarantees. Go with the team that doesn't just make empty promises, but actually provides proof of their experience and track record of getting homes sold for top dollar. Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team is so confident in the service they provide and the results they get you that if you are not happy, you can cancel at any time at no cost. This is their cancellation promise. Call 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE has the buyers.com. Gay Ribble making it happen. It doesn't matter what election outcome, what the housing market, she is a real pro and can work with you through that. So check out Gay Ribble at gayhasthebuyers.com. Give us a call. Let us know what you think about the conversation with Kamala Harris and Brett Baier of Fox News yesterday. I thought it was a career ender for her because she's going to lose this campaign. She's not going to be able to run again in the future. Democrats don't really want her to be the nominee. They'd rather have someone like Gavin Newsom, Jared Polis, Paul Shapiro. Those are the ones that'll be fighting 4 years from now for the nomination. She's going to lose in 19 days. She's not prepared to be the president of the United States. That was on full display yesterday in that conversation. So I think she's done. Prove me wrong. 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5050. 5115. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out. Had a fun night watching one of his favorite artists at Red Rocks last night. And joining me in studio is Conservative Mama. She's got a big social media following where she likes to use satire to go after the libs. So check her out on Twitter or X and Instagram or YouTube. Conservative Mama. You have a lot of fun with those videos. Let's go to the phone lines. Tony Littleton, what do you think of Kamala Harris's disastrous interview yesterday?
Well, I expect that you would be, you would attack, this interview as being horrible. But I think there's kind of a bigger picture. We're down to the last 3 weeks, and I know you see it as a career ender and nobody's going to vote for her and Democrats don't want her. But the facts would show that right now, the polls, all the polls are all within the margin of error. It's going to be a tight race all the way to the end. If there's anything that said there might be some enthusiasm, you maybe have heard Georgia, their first day of voting set a all-time record. So
Yeah, I saw that.
Probably,
Tony,
that's probably Democrat.
Do you, after you watched last night, though, do you think that the voters, the Democrat voters, the voters that are going to be voting for Kamala Harris, are doing so because they believe she's a great leader, or are they just angry about Donald Trump?
I think this really goes down to what the message, their message, and I can't say what the MAGA message is going to be for the final 3 weeks, because it seems like it's kind of all over the place to me at the moment. The Democrats' message for these final 3 weeks are really going to focus on a couple things. One, Trump's not doing any interviews. She went into Fox and did an interview.
He did Univision last night. He did Bloomberg. He did Fox yesterday. He's doing interviews all the time.
He's canceled. Look, all right. I know. I mean, he's canceled several interviews. Bloomberg was supposed to be a great interview for him, and that ended up being really a disaster for him. And I don't know what you saw of it. You know, he was asked a question about Google, and he answers.
But Tony, I want to go back to the question I asked you. Do you think, though, that people are supporting Kamala Harris because they believe that she can be the leader of the free world, or are they just angry at Trump?
It's both. I mean, and you think about the Republicans that have come out and endorsed her, including the former Joint Chiefs chairman has come out and endorsed her, and calling Trump the most dangerous man in America, a fascist to the core. All the Republicans that took the stage with her yesterday to say, we are all in for Kamala. This is unprecedented.
Again, I think you just answered my question. It's just anti-Trump.
Yeah, it's TDS. It's Trump derangement syndrome is what it is.
It's one thing if you're just anti-Trump, then you just say you're not voting for him. They're doing more. They're voting for her. They're announcing that they are voting for her. That's a big step. The second thing that he's coming into right now, and it's going to be pounded in every single rally and every message now, is this guy's competence. He won't release his medical records. He's saying some really crazy stuff in his interviews. He did the Hispanic radio thing and last night or day before, and he's still out there talking about.
Tony, I appreciate the call. We're just out of time here. Look, I think Tony answered the question.
Yeah,
it's just
they just rage, man.
And
they just hate him.
Anytime she's on the national stage, like she was with Fox yesterday, she's unlikable, incompetent, overwhelmed, out of place, angry, frustrated, unprepared, and unpresidential. But tell me where I'm wrong. Give me a call, 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show. It is 7 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. Bill's out today, but joining me in studio is Rachel. She goes by the name Conservative Mama. You can follow her on X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Very popular there. Tens of thousands of followers as she does a great satire of the left. Glad to have her joining us in studio. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history, gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, but most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open. Give us a call. We're talking Kamala's disastrous interview that took place with Bret Baier on Fox News. Is it over for her? Why are women continuing to hang on with her? And why aren't they getting behind Donald Trump? Maybe some are. I'll play a little audio for you later when Donald Trump walks out to an all-women's town hall, and it sounded like the Beatles. So, maybe the ladies are coming around and supporting DJT. Plus, George Bronkler coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Jam-packed show. You're going to want to stick with us for its entirety. Give us a call. Phone number again, 303-696-1971. Or text us on the Dan Caplis Law Text line, 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Lots of text messages coming in. Breadman texting saying, Kamala Harris, it's like the number 2 job. The reality is it's a day drinking job. Kamala is unprepared. That is why she's not doing as well.
My husband actually mentioned it the other day. He's like, Rachel, he's like, I've been watching Kamala, and he goes, do you think that she's on something? He's like, I'm like not saying like for real. And he's very much like an independent. Like he's very critical thinker, logical. It doesn't get hyped up in a lot of stuff I do. And he's like, does she drink? I go, it does feel like it's like 3 glasses in. 3 glasses of wine. And I enjoy wine. I do enjoy wine, but it's like a 3 glasses in. You're not gone, but you're totally relaxed. And that's why the word salads come so freely. I think that's what's going on. I mean, I could be wrong, but like that I do see. So.
Well, and Vice President, you're kind of like the Queen of England. There's not a lot to manage, actually. So give us a call. Love to hear from you. First, let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake. Have you had 3 glasses yet?
No, I haven't, as a matter of fact. But there are 3 or 4 great examples of that, of her speaking while she was vice president, and you would tend to lean that way, no doubt. But no, I'm not 3 glasses in, no doubt. 52, partly cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 74 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, tough gal Kamala Khan on a Fox interview with Bret Baier last night.
Call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
And you go sit down, back to your seat, open your books to page 24.
I can't do any more interviews. I've only gotten more unlikable somehow. At this point, Hunter Biden has a better chance of winning.
Did you want to say something, Jeff?
I mean, the whole point of that is you're not trustworthy, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You were running around telling America that Joe Biden was great. And then when you were asked when you learned, because the whole country saw him
right.
Fall apart, when did you learn that he wasn't prepared? I mean, George Clooney, Bret Baier points out, learned after one conversation. You sat in an office with him once a week for 3.5 years. She won't answer the question. And it comes down to the fact that she's just not trustworthy.
Absolutely. That is, and there are about 10 of those boxes you could check just off the top of my head. Scott Jennings on CNN.
She has no answer for why Biden and Harris threw out Donald Trump's executive orders and changed everything, and then a flood of people came in. An ounce of humility here would go a long way, and she doesn't have it in her to do it, and she has no real answer other than to blame Congress. And Brett was right. Democrats controlled everything when they took over. And so is she saying it's the Democrats' fault that the immigration system is broken? I don't understand this. I don't understand why she can't just say, hindsight here, we shouldn't have done it. I think the American people would actually accept it, but she won't do it.
DJT will be in NYC today for the annual Al Smith dinner to raise money for Catholic charities. Kamala Khan turned it down. She had an invitation to the event, but Trump on Univision last night, someone asked him to give 3 good things about Kamala Khan.
That's a very hard question. That's the toughest question. The other ones are easy. I'm not a fan. I think she's harmed our country horribly at the border, with inflation, with so many other things. But she seems to have an ability to survive. She seemed, because, she was out of the race and all of a sudden she's running for president. That's a great ability that some people have and some people don't have. She seems to have some pretty long time friendships. And that's, also I don't call that an ability. I call that a good thing. And she seems to have a nice way about her. I mean, I like the way, some of her statements, some of her, the way she behaves in a certain way. But in another way, I think it's very bad for our country.
Hey, I thought he handled it extremely well on that one. That was a good job, DJT.
Do you know if this is the first time a Democrat hasn't gone to that Catholic charities dinner?
I don't know.
Because Hillary was there. Hillary was.
I think that may be. You're right. Obama went. I know he went at least
Joe is Catholic, so he shouldn't have a problem.
No, I don't.
It's called the Al Smith dinner.
Yeah,
right?
the Al Smith dinner. Now, Trump didn't go to one of them, correct? During his reign, I'm not sure. It may be the first one. It may be the first time. I'm not sure about
support
that one.
those Catholics. They're good people.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Historic agreement has been reached that could pave the way for a brand new skyline in part of downtown Denver. Kroenke Sports and Entertainment, the owner of Ball Arena, has signed an agreement with a committee made up of more than a dozen neighborhood and community groups that would be impacted by plans they're going to transform that parking lot around Ball into 70 acres of neighborhood filled with parks, new high-rise housing, office and retail space, and thousands of residents. Students at CSU returned to class after back-to-back safety alerts. In the first one, police found a person dead inside a dorm room Wednesday on the Fort Collins campus, but are not revealing any details. That triggered a shelter in place for about 90 minutes. Hours later, another one was issued when someone was attacked with a knife. Last night, police searched for the suspect, but they say that he ran off. All right, One Direction, one of the singers and stars for them, Liam Payne, fell from a balcony and to his death in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and fans showing their support after the news and the shocking death. After that news spread, they set up a vigil for the musician. The circumstances around his death are still under investigation. It's Thursday night football tonight, and the Broncos in the Big Easy take on New Orleans and the Saints. 48 in Castle Rock, 50 in Lakewood, and 52 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. But the conservative mama is in studio, in for Billy Thursday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The weather will be changing, but for another day, it'll still be mild. Temperatures today will likely make the 70s under partly cloudy skies. Increasing clouds later on. Tonight, turning colder, chance for showers developing late, then colder Friday, 50s and low 60s and falling with developing showers Friday night, Saturday into Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Missing Billy today. He's out at a concert last night. Kept him out a little bit late. He's going to be back tomorrow. Don't worry. Not going anywhere. We love Billy. Joining me live in studio is Conservative Mama. Rachel is her first name, but Conservative Mama, and she's got great satire spoofs on X, YouTube, Instagram, if you want to watch over there. We're talking Kamala Harris's disastrous interview on Fox. To me, she came across as unlikable, incompetent, overwhelmed, out of place, angry, frustrated, unprepared, and ultimately unpresidential. I think she's done. We're 19 days out from this election. This was the nail in the coffin for me.
More than
People
70%
are
of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him
Madam
instead
Vice
of
President,
the American people.
if
People
that's the
are
case,
tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election.
She doesn't have an answer for
No,
that.
for anything. There's no answer for anything.
I mean, does she grant, when I listen to that, she grants that a guy that is out of office,
yeah,
because of his, I guess, social media prowess, has more control and power in this country than she does
I
as
guess
second
so.
in command?
And is she a psychiatrist? Like, is she going to tell us whether he's stable or unstable? I mean, who are you? Who are you, Kamala, to tell us? I mean, what? Yeah, honestly, what qualifies her to tell us who's stable and unstable?
Especially when she sat across the desk from Joe Biden for 3.5 years
Right.
and claimed he was
And
perfectly
lied
fine.
to us and told us he was fine. So, oh my gosh. And just let's point out the fact that Democrats have been in control. 12 of the last 16 years. Okay. I think that people really need to take that into account. 12 of the last 16 years, they have been in control.
What I want to put you in this position, and then we'll get to the calls. She wants to talk. First of all, I think it's a disaster to run with the idea of turning the page when you're the incumbent, but they have,
Yeah,
right? They have.
Right.
You get asked the question from Brett Barron, you're Kamala Harris, on 79% of the people believe that the country's in the wrong direction. She goes on to blame that it's Donald Trump and his abilities to speak, and Brett Barron doesn't even know what she's talking about. But could you think of even a better way to answer that question?
Well, what I think this really exposes to me is the lack of leadership, because true leadership takes responsibility immediately. You take responsibility, whether it's good or bad, you take responsibility. And she is unable to take any responsibility at all Like through the entire interview, it's somebody else's fault. It's Donald Trump's fault over and over and over again. And I think that as a woman, I want someone as a woman leader that is able to take responsibility, own it. I mean, come on, step up to the plate. You want to be the most powerful person on the planet, and you can't take responsibility. That disqualifies you. Absolutely disqualifies you.
Wow. That's Conservative Mama, by the way. Her first name is Rachel. She goes by Conservative Mama, and she provides satire videos, great content. You can follow her on X, YouTube, or Instagram. Let's go to the phone lines. Would love to have you join the conversation. Give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Joe Arvada, good morning, Joe. Good to hear from you.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, Conservative Mama. Well, that's kind of a mouthful. How about
You could just say
Mama?
Rachel. You could just say Rachel. It's fine.
Okay, Rachel. You're right, Jeff. Donald Trump has prosecuted a winning case. He has, in my mind, and in I think rational mind. Sorry, Tony. That Donald Trump should win the election. But the media has done their darndest to keep it close, and even lying in the overreach of the polls. We all know they pick Democrats in their polling. It's so obvious now when the returns are starting to come in, when you see how many Republicans there are saying, and then even when they interview people, they didn't vote for her. The point is Joe, they tried to give cover.
I want to ask you this question, though. I'm going to put you in the spot of being Donald Trump's campaign manager. You got 19 days to finish this thing. You're in the lead. How do you close this and win it?
I think use your war chest to run a national ad. I know you need to win you do need to win the swing states. That's obvious. Obviously, the ads go out there. But I think there's something to winning the country. We need a sweeping mandate. And what Donald Trump needs to do is to not run a negative ad, but run a Morning in America type ad. And run it on Football Sunday, run it on American sports programming, or even I think even Sunday mornings. But the point is that he's got some money left. Let's use it effectively in a positive message for America. I think that's important.
I want to ask Rachel, Conservative Mama, who's in studio with us today. Look, there is a gender gap when it comes to who's supporting Republicans and Democrats. The dudes are on the Republican side. The ladies are on the Democrat side. Donald Trump's in the lead. He's got 19 days, and he wants to close the deal with women. What does he say?
I think as a mom, like I said earlier, it's all about protecting your kids and family. And Kamala has not done that. She has made us unsafe. She's made my children more vulnerable to crime, to being victims instead of victorious. And Trump brings that victorious, I'm going to protect mindset. And his policies back that up. And I think at the end of the day, I would target women and how we need to protect our children and bring those mama bears up and into the forefront. And why women, I think I would I would interview woman after woman on why they're supporting Trump and run that continuously.
There was a moment yesterday. So Donald Trump did a town hall, an all-ladies town hall with Fox News. Harris Faulkner moderated it. There was an image in one of the questions that really stuck with me. And I think this could be Trump's pathway to winning women. Listen to this.
Well, my son is a Georgia Bulldog. He was on campus the day Laken Riley was murdered. Terrifying for all those kids, right? I wanted to know, like, how quickly in a sanctuary city, like they're calling Athens, Georgia, how quickly can you remove those threats to our society so that our children can go out on a run, as they rightfully should be able to do in a park in the daytime by themselves? It should not be like that. And also, I was wondering, I watch television all the time. I see your ads. I don't see a lot of vocalness about these sort of crimes, these hideous crimes in your promotion. So I'm wondering why that is.
Well, we are into it. First of all, we are going to end all sanctuary cities immediately. We're going to end them because they're really...
Is that an executive order you do that with?
They're really... I can do it with an executive order. I'll have to do it with an executive order. You can do it with the Aliens Act of 1798. We can do things in terms of moving people out. We can move them out of the sanctuary cities. You have some liberal, crazy people that they fight. Normally you like to understand the opponent, like in business. You want to understand what is the opposites. Why do they want this? You want to try and figure, why do they want open borders? Why do they want to do this? Why do they want sanctuary cities? Sanctuary cities are really meant for one thing, to protect criminals. That's what they become. We're going to end all sanctuary cities in the United States, and we're going to go back to normalcy.
Man, go back to normalcy. So the image that really stuck with me there was our children can go on a run.
Yes.
Do you remember that Mel Gibson, Helen Hunt movie? What Women Want.
Yes.
Right. Where he
movie.
becomes,
Yes.
he gets into the mind of a woman.
Mhm.
Right. And do you remember the ad that they ended up promoting where it was like a woman just having the freedom to go for a run?
Yes. Yeah.
And like, there's no makeup, there's no expectations, or like that became
Yes.
what they sold the
And
Nike.
your mind can just wander. Right.
Yeah.
I
And,
love
and
it.
you're free.
Yep.
And that notion that a woman cannot freely run
No.
these days through
Fearful.
Aurora,
Right.
through downtown
No,
Denver,
no.
that these sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, and then don't even get into your kids at the park, but
Ugh.
just the freedom to be a woman in America anymore.
Right. And how many people are now like kind of paralyzed by fear? Like a freedom from fear is what you would run on. Just absolute freedom from fear. You don't have to be fearful anymore. We're going to return to normalcy where the bad guys are punished and the good guys are safe. You're safe. You don't need to worry anymore. I mean, I think number one thing moms do all the time is you're constantly worrying about, and all of this stuff that the Biden-Harris administration has done has just elevated worry to an unsurmountable like state. It's too much. It's constant all the time worry. And I think for a mom to know that you don't have to worry, everything's going to be okay. That's what we need.
But abortion. I mean, you're going to lose all your rights, and all of a sudden you're going to become, barefoot and pregnant with 8 kids.
I just don't get that. And it's just so women know, you can still abort your baby, which is I'm totally against, but it's returned to the states. So that the whole messaging on that front has been off. It's not.
I feel like it's losing steam.
It's losing steam. I think so. Yes.
Right. With all the other issues we're dealing with,
Yep.
like that's the last thing they can hang their hat on. And Trump is not as pro-life as I am. I would
No.
have a national abortion ban,
Mhm.
but he's not willing to go there. So it's kind of neutered, I think, the fear of it, and it just seems to be running out of steam. I don't know. What do you hear from your fellow sisters?
Well, I hang with a lot of conservative women, so they think more like me. But I do think that knowing that your kids are safe and safety and protecting women overrides, especially I think there are a lot of women out there, and I'd love to hear them call in about women being able to play against women in sports and not having some dude come in there and drill you with a volleyball and give you permanent brain damage. I think that's at the forefront. Being able to send your daughter into a restroom and know that she's not going to be harassed by some giant man in there because he's identifying as a woman. I want women to be safe. And I think that supersedes the ability to take the life of the unborn in the womb. I think that safety here and now overrides that.
Safety and return to normalcy. Joe, what did you think about Trump's answer to a room full of ladies about that?
Oh, I think it's fabulous that Donald Trump acknowledges, all sides of the equation. Really, even the gays. I'm sorry, the gays are looking. This isn't rational. What's happening? There's no reason a man should be running in a woman's high school race, in a female high school race. That's just ridiculous. But here's I say this. This would be great if he could run that ad, but the way the media has turned really communist, they will censor it. They will not let him say these things because they don't want that message to get across to. Thank God for KNUS. Thank God for conservative mama Rachel, because you are standing up with a strong voice. Thank you so much, because I am shouting from the rooftops, but yeah, I'm a white man and I get, immediately turned off because I'm a white male. But when a conservative mama stands up, a mama bear says, this is it, and we can't let this happen to our kids, maybe the rest of humanity will listen.
Oh, Joe, appreciate the call. Thanks so much. You want to respond?
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. And I think that the Democrats are now feeling the effects of being so condescending and ridiculing of men for the last 40 years, that you can see that now in the polls, because they have mistreated men, they've demeaned men, they've done everything. I mean, it's been hard to watch how men have been treated by the left for years and years and years, and now they're like, oh, we're not polling well with men. Well, you can look at yourself. It's been self-inflicted completely.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
You have a son, I believe, right?
I do have a son.
I think about this a lot, like what my boys are walking into.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like they're 10, 11, 12, like they're just like they were born like yesterday, it feels like, and yet they're blamed with all the problems of the world, like somehow you had anything to do with it,
right?
And they're just kind of pushed out there. That's not fair.
It's very unfair, and it comes back to that feminist, radical, leftist ideology. But we need men, and we value men, and I think that we're starting to see the men come around and see that, okay, then I am valued in this party, and I am seen in this party, and I am seen with Trump. And I think that resonates so much with them. And that's why they're doing so well with Trump and his voters. So
yeah, out at the Gaylord a week ago, tomorrow, ran into a lot of young men that felt empowered by conservatives, Republicans, and Donald Trump, because the other side, like you mentioned, just blames every world problem upon them. Yep. And then they want the power. I asked these young guys, I said, well, Kamala Harris is going to promise you a whole lot. Free college. She's going to give you a house to start. Why aren't you a Democrat? And it tapped into this thing deep in the heart of a guy that's like, I don't want to be provided for. I want to provide for others.
Right.
I don't need Kamala Harris bringing me all these gifts in exchange for loyalty to her. I want to be empowered to go out there and build something, build a family, build a business.
Right. And that's what Trump does. He cuts all the red tape, right? All the regulation. And that's what the Democrats do. They strap you down with all these regulations that you really can't be all that you want to do. And then Trump comes in and says, I'm cutting all that off, and you just go for it. And that definitely resonates with men.
Getting lots of text messages in. Rachel, also known as Conservative Mama, joining us. Morning, guys, and welcome, Mom, who's had enough. You know, the way Dems will spin this, return to normal. You mean like when women were subservient to men, immigrants had to hide in the shadows, blacks had to drink out of different water fountains. They only have fear mongering at this point. You want to respond to that?
You know, when I think about, okay, I would say return to like a 1990s era. You know what I'm saying? Like, I look back on my childhood, and one of my best friends was black, and I never even thought, oh, you're black. Like, it wasn't talked about. It wasn't even a thing. It was just, we just lived life. Color wasn't pointed out. It was just, and that is the return. It's a return to just, I don't know. Not everything is just being able to have a conversation with people on the other side and not being disinvited to Thanksgiving dinner. That's what we're talking about here, I think. So
we peaked with NSYNC and Backstreet Boys,
yeah.
is what you're saying. So,
pretty much.
Hey, I want to talk about, speaking of peaking, I want to talk to you about Peak Wellness and our friends over at QC Kinetics. You don't have to keep living with that joint pain. Real lasting relief is possible, and it comes from QC Kinetics. People here in our office are getting their lives back. Joel in our sales department is a client of QC Kinetics. He was telling me the other day he's playing more golf than he ever has his entire life. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in cellular therapies that can revitalize your joints. I'm talking about advanced regenerative medicine using your own body's healing properties, highly concentrated and carefully placed in your achy joints, back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain. These are cutting-edge treatments that require no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. It's a quick in-office procedure that can get you moving again. These protocols have been developed by medical professionals and under the leadership of Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, a former orthopedic surgeon and a pioneer in clinical regenerative medicine. I had a family member get his knee replaced recently, and it took him minimum 6 weeks to even be really walking, engaging. You don't want it to get that far to where you're having to cut out entire parts of your body. Check out QC Kinetics. Is arthritic joint pain keeping you from doing the things you love? Pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder? You owe it to yourself to learn more. Call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation. 303-900-8986. 303-900-8986 with locations in Aurora, Superior, Highlands Ranch, and Colorado Springs. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's News Talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The Biden-Harris administration is taking some heat after it announced that another $425 million military aid package would be given to Ukraine. The announcement came during a phone call between Biden and Volodymyr Zelensky. Included in the package are additional air defense capabilities, air-to-ground munitions, and armored vehicles and munitions. And while Zelensky expressed gratitude, people right here in the U.S. aren't so happy, with many pointing to the fact that Americans are still recovering from Hurricanes Helene and Milton with minimal government assistance. Elon Musk, the tech mogul, pumped more than $70 million into helping Donald Trump and other Republicans win in November's election, making him one of the biggest donors to GOP causes this campaign season. America PAC, which is focused on turning out voters in battleground states that could decide the election, spent around $72 million in the July through September period, according to disclosures filed with the Federal Election Commission. President Donald Trump plans on standing behind the counter and cooking McDonald's famous fries this weekend in Pennsylvania. Trump's trolling of Kamala Harris comes as the vice president continues to claim she worked at McDonald's but has failed to provide any proof. Last month, Trump called Kamala out, saying, quote, Kamala never had a job at McDonald's. Trump's campaign spokesman said, why won't they just provide real documentation and proof? In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill is out. He was out late last night at a show at Red Rock. So joining me in studio is Rachel. She goes by the moniker Conservative Mama. You can follow her on X, YouTube, Instagram. She does these great satire videos pointing out the ridiculousness of the left. And believe me, like being a conservative talk radio host in Colorado, we're given lots of content in this state. This is just all the time. Like Jared Polis going, you know what? I'm finally going to get tough on crime by calling the police on Danielle Jurinsky.
It's ridiculous. I can't believe that happened. It's insane.
God. Just stop. Please stop. It's crazy.
Yes.
Lots of text messages coming in. We're talking about Kamala Harris's disastrous interview yesterday, 8422. We were moving forward and evolving as a country until Obama came along and told us all how horrible we were. I mean, did you see the movie Am I Racist?
I've not seen it. No, I want to see it. No, I've not seen it yet.
It just goes to show that, like, to your point, he starts out the movie by going, like, I grew up being told, educated, and I was too at Cherry Creek High School, just down the street, that we are becoming a colorblind society.
Yeah.
Right? Just like, judge a person by the content of their character,
yes,
not the color of their skin. And now you're tied into all these knots.
Yeah.
Where, like,
and gender's now incorporated into it.
Right.
He, they,
Like,
she, me, you. I don't know all of them. So
I mean, you notice somebody's race, you're racist. You don't know somebody's race, you're racist. You smile too much at somebody who's black, you're racist. You don't smile enough at somebody who's black, you're racist. It's just, and he points out we were just tying each other in knots, and as a result, we're more divided than we've ever been.
And we've lost all sense of humor. You can't joke about anything. You can't. It's all serious, no fun, just straight face. It's not fun anymore.
Thank God for the comedians who push back on all that. The
yes,
Bill Burr, the Joe Rogans, even I'm forgetting some of the other comedians, but great ones.
Yeah.
That push back on that. Well, let's continue this Kamala Harris disaster. By the way, I made this yesterday, and I was thinking that Trump should just play this for the next 19 days nonstop.
You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration. You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration. You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration. You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration. You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Love it. Take responsibility, man.
And
right?
she won't.
And train wreck Kamala is trending on Twitter, just so you know. So I think other people are waking up.
Oh, boy. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Brian Arvada, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show with Conservative Mama.
Hey, good morning. Can you guys hear me?
We got you loud and clear, brother.
Great. Hey, I think Trump was able to pull away the black vote, and I think he's still got a lock on that, pulling what he pulled away from the Democrats last time. And now what he lost with the women vote, because I do think he did lose that last time around. I think he's gaining it back. My wife is an independent woman. She's an educator, and she just can't stand the way he talks. But even now she listens to Kamala, and she can't stand the way Kamala talks.
Yeah.
So she's like, she's a whiny, like a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's taught like a powerful school teacher. She's either talking to you like you're a kindergartner, or she's talking to you like you're stupid. So it turns her off completely. So does Trump. I had her listen to a commencement speech that Trump gave. She loved it. She's like, why doesn't he talk like that all the time? But then he's always asked to go on his tangent of, we're gonna win. We're gonna win so much. Tell me to stop winning, but I'm still going to keep winning. And she just hates that bravado. And, but I think Kamala's not the one to get the woman vote back, or the women vote back, which is super important.
But Brian, they really tried. And I want to throw this over to Rachel, also known as Conservative Mama. They brought out Julia Roberts. They brought out Obama, or Oprah. They gal-palled Kamala. That was the whole point of the DNC. She's like your neighbor. You're going to grab some wine together. You're going to have some fun. She's your gal pal like Oprah is. But do you think it worked?
I don't think it worked at this point because celebrities are so disconnected from reality. Like I mentioned, I mentioned this off air to Jeff, but I worked for a very well-known celebrity worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they live so disconnected from the rest of the world. Like they don't even know how to boil water. I'm not kidding you. They don't answer their phone. Like somebody answers it. Like they don't do like everyday things that they don't drive cars, like private drivers. Like they don't live normal. They have no idea what a gallon of gas costs or a gallon of milk. So I think that whole approach, like let's get the celebrities to come alongside us. They don't live like us. And I think more people are realizing, hey, you don't know our struggle. So why do I care who you're voting for? It doesn't matter anymore at all.
How about the effort though to make Kamala likable? Right? He's mentioned, Brian's mentioned that his independent education working wife, who, should be a core supporter of Kamala Harris and the Democrat Party, is finding her not likable.
Because she lacks the authenticity. It's all like there's nothing real about it. It's all generated. It's like AI images. It's like she doesn't come across as genuine. She doesn't come across at all as somebody that really knows what you're going through. And not to say that Trump does either necessarily, but this is what I tell women. We don't vote on whether we like the candidate or not. It has nothing to do with it. We vote on policy. And what policies help your family out? What policies protect your kids? What policies are going to prevent a World War III? That's what we vote on. So it's not personality, it's policy.
Yeah, but I do think that personality matters a lot. And I wrote about this in 2016 when I was watching a billionaire from Manhattan with a gold toilet connect with West Virginia coal miners.
Right.
And there was this element of, they probably side more with his policies, but they kind of like the dude. Like I watched Donald Trump, and I don't agree with him on the life issue. I think he's getting squishy on life. I'm not sure I agree with him on tariffs. I'm intrigued by his position on tariffs, but I'm not quite there. But I find, and we're going to get to this a little bit later in the show, when he did the town hall with women, they loved him. They found him funny and engaging. And there was a sense of likability that I think Donald Trump has that Kamala Harris doesn't.
Right. Well, this is what I think. I think a lot of women, they watch The View, they watch MSNBC, they watch the nightly news, just like your 60 Minutes spots. The women that actually pull away and watch a rally or watch him with Harris Faulkner, and those women, they then can see the personality shine through. But if you're just, reading Yahoo News headlines, you're not going to like him. You're not going to like him. And that's all intentionally done.
Brian, I'll give you the final word.
Yeah, the people watching The View are all haters anyway. And, Trump, he works the room. But the bottom line, I could tell that he loves this country. You can't tell Kamala does. And I talked to a golf coach. How do you judge a golfer? By his swing, his backswing, his stance, or how he looks at the ball, the follow through. And he said, no, I look to see where the ball lands. And you know what? Trump lands the ball closer to as far as policy than anyone in this race. So
Brian,
that's what you need to focus on.
Brian from Arvada, great call. Really appreciate it. Brian's line will be open 303-696-1971. Hey, speaking of great guys, I want to talk to you about my good friend Dan Kaplis and Dan Kaplis Law. Dan suggests that you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. I've known Dan for well over a decade. He'd be my first call if I was ever injured in a car accident. He's pro-life. He's pro-family. He's pro-America. He's the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But more than just being a really good guy with solid values, he's a real winner in the courtroom. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Kaplis Law is so trusted that they're the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Kaplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, only the rich and wealthy can afford him. Not true. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. Look, even if you're not in an injured in a car accident right now, why don't you put his phone number in your phone? When that moment happens, you can quickly call him and get the help you need. Give Dan a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Boy, it was a disastrous interview for Kamala Harris. I think she's done. 19 days. I could be wrong, but the election were held today. DJT wins, and Kamala's career in politics takes a long walk off of a short plank. All right, let's go to the phone lines. Carolyn, Denver. Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, I've been enjoying the show. Shout out to Conservative Mama.
Hey, hello, Carolyn.
Hey there. I'm here in Denver, right by the Capitol, in the heart of the zombie apocalypse.
Jeez.
But anyway, I did want to mention, like, you kind of presented the 90s as this racially idyllic time, but we have to go back and remember, even though Kamala says we shouldn't be burdened by the past, 1991, when the whole Rodney King thing happened in LA, and that whole issue reverberated throughout the country. And I remember in Denver, they were flipping cop cars and stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, maybe late 80s then. I don't know. Like I just, like I was telling Jeff off air, like it was a colorblind society. It was just kind of like everybody kind of got along, and it wasn't so there wasn't so much tension and division. And I feel like that when we say return to normal, it's returning to just being able to have a cup of coffee with someone that you disagree with and you're still friends.
Yeah, identity politics has definitely taken more of a stronghold, but there were definitely racial issues, that were real super serious, and I think we just tend to forget. But also, could I just say that concerning Kamala, in my eyes, I have just like 4 words to describe the Silicon Valley queen, just put together San Francisco and Silicon Valley, and boom, chakalaka, you've got Kamala.
Right. Right.
That's the mix. Look, we are elevating her to become the leader of the free world, the most powerful person. And what came across to me yesterday that she was unlikable. She was incompetent. She was overwhelmed by it, and she's not ready for the job. She's out of her place. She came across as angry and frustrated, unprepared, and then ultimately unpresidential. There was a theory I put on very early, Carolyn, that I think the Democrats knew they weren't going to win this election, particularly as it relates to Joe Biden. So the big names, the Josh Shapiros, the Gavin Newsoms, the Jared Polis's, do you notice how they didn't really fight for this nomination? They just kind of were like, yeah, Kamala, go ahead.
Yeah.
We'll march out there and you take the loss for us and we'll be ready to go in 4 years. I think that might be happening. Carolyn, great call. I appreciate it. George Brockler is joining us up next. He's got an important race he's running. Plus, we're going to talk ballot initiatives. Don't miss the great conversation coming up with George Brockler. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. This is what Billy and I have to say to each other in the morning. Last night, Bill, we just let the liquor talk. Good morning. It's 8 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, October 17th. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. Billy's out today. He was out late last night at Red Rocks enjoying a show. So joining me in studio is Rachel. She goes by the moniker Conservative Mama. Provides a lot of satire spoof videos on X, YouTube, Instagram. You can check her out there. And hanging out in the studio.
Just
we're
chilling.
talking
We're just kicking it.
Kamala. We're talking Trump's town hall with ladies, which we're going to get to in a second. But coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson is George Brockler. You may remember that name. Jorge held this seat for a while on 710 KNUS. And then because of FCC rules, once you become a candidate, they go, you gotta step away. It's just the way the government regulations work. And I got to come in and take his place. But always great to have George on the program. We're going to be talking about his race. He's got a big race coming up for district attorney in Judicial District 23. And then he's taking a leadership role on a number of these ballot initiatives that have to do with crime and strengthening some of the punishment. So we're going to be hanging out with Jorge. You're not going to want to miss it. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, guys. 53 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 74 today. The 710 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, it is Thursday night football. The Broncos in the Big Easy, they take on the Saints. And last night, political football. Kamala Khan on Fox News with Brett Baer.
You know, when the kicker in football, they call a timeout right before he's going to kick the field goal. They're icing the kicker. So we were supposed to start at 5 p.m. This was the time they gave us. Originally, we were going to do 25 or 30 minutes. They came in and said, well, maybe 20. So it was already getting whittled down. And then the vice president showed up about 5:15. We were pushing the envelope to be able to turn it around for the top of the 6 o'clock. So that's how it started. And I could tell when we started talking that she was going to be tough to redirect without me trying to interrupt. I did this with President Obama. At one point, I just said, Mr. President, I know you like the filibuster. I just didn't even have the chance to sometimes redirect in those ways. I had a lot of other questions.
He was way too nice. Hey, this was heartbreaking to me. Video of 57 unaccompanied children apprehended at the southern border near Eagle Pass, Texas. The children were smuggled by cartels who provided them with pieces of paper instructing the federal government where to take them. Cartels count on the government to complete the final leg of human smuggling for them, according to Bill Malugin. Over 10 million, probably more, illegal immigrants have entered the country under Kamala Khan and Biden. Some end up being used as child prostitutes, and child sex trafficking reports have tripled under Biden and Kamala Khan. But Harris, who's guilty of plagiarism, by the way, does that matter to any of you lefty academics? She tells Bear last night everything, all this stuff, everything the past 3.5 years, almost 4 years now, is DJT's fault.
Exhausted of Brett.
More than
people
70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade.
You fool. I actually don't know what you're talking about.
What you talking about?
The family of an Oregon man says he's disappeared after missing a weekend flight from Denver International.
I hope someone can locate him and get him in contact with me so I can help figure out how to get him home.
That's Brianna Winsberry, sister of 35-year-old Jesse George. She says Jesse flew from Medford to DIA on Sunday and was scheduled to board a connecting flight to Arkansas. He never boarded that Monday flight, and his family is still waiting to hear from him. Airport officials say his luggage is still being held in Denver, and police have been notified about his alleged disappearance. His sister said mental health could be at play. He was using a temporary ID and had issues at TSA. Students at CSU returned to class after back-to-back safety alerts. In the first one, police found a person dead inside a dorm room on Wednesday at the Fort Collins campus, but are not revealing any details. That triggered a shelter in place for about 90 minutes. Hours later, another one was issued when someone was attacked with a knife last night, and police have searched, and they say the suspect has run off. They cannot find him. One Direction band member Liam Payne is dead after falling from a balcony in Buenos Aires. He was 31 years old. Weekly jobless claims are down as fewer Americans than analysts had predicted found themselves seeking first-time unemployment benefits. 51 in Parker, 50 in Superior, and 53 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue with the conservative mama in for Billy. It's Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The weather will be changing, but for another day, it'll still be mild. Temperatures today will likely make the 70s under partly cloudy skies. Increasing clouds later on. Tonight, turning colder. Chance for showers developing late. Then colder Friday, 50s and low 60s and falling with developing showers Friday night, Saturday into Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center. The weather will be changing, but for another day.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out today, but he'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry, we're not changing anything. We love Billy. He'll be right back tomorrow. Joining us in studio is Rachel. She goes by the moniker Conservative Mama. She does great satires, making fun of the left on X, YouTube, and Instagram. Be sure to give her a follow over there. How's it going so far?
It's going good. I'm having fun. It's just getting going now, right?
That's right. Speaking of that, he's running for District Attorney in Judicial District 23. George Brockler, you know that name. Ballots are out. George, how do you feel about the race coming up here? I want to talk to you specifically about this questionnaire in the Denver Post and Democrat Karen Breslin, but give us the inside beat. How's the race coming?
Couple things. One, thank you for having me on. Two, hello to Conservative Mama, obviously epic on X, going through her feed.
Hey.
And third, I feel great about the race, and we can talk about that, but nothing makes you feel better than when you're about to go live on the show and Kelly says into your ear, "You're hot." It's really nice to hear.
And that's exactly what he meant. So, George, I mean, almost everybody knows you in the state. You ran for governor, attorney general. You're a host on this show. You prosecuted some of the most infamous criminals this state has ever had, the James Holmes case. Give folks a little bit of your background. You were a district attorney, and then you're like, that district attorney option over there looks pretty good. I might give another run for it.
I grew up in a middle-class household. And that's
how was the law?
Actually turns out to be 100% true in my case, and not in Canada. It was in a place called Lakewood, which is just to the west of Denver.
Do you mind quickly shifting your accent based upon who you're talking to?
Did neighbors, did they have a grass lawn? Remember, that was a big thing too.
My neighbors were very proud of their lawn.
Okay, good.
My dad was very disappointed in my ability to care for our own because when you're the boy, and I got a brother too. You try to help around the house by mowing, and one or both of us were not that great at it. Nonetheless, I'm just a middle-class kid from Colorado who went to a bunch of public schools and kind of tripped his way into ending up being a prosecutor and an officer in the Army. And one thing led to another, and it was very Forrest Gumpy. And I ended up being assigned to prosecute the Columbine cases. And then later on, after a stint on active duty after September 11th, I ended up playing a small but decisive role in the Kobe Bryant case. And I didn't mean to get the case dismissed, but I did this mock cross-examination of a victim in the case, and I think she thought that things went poorly. And then one thing led to another, and I ran for DA and lost against the incumbent back in 2008. Went to Iraq, came back, ran, won. And before I could be the DA, some guy walked into a movie theater at the corner of 225 and Alameda and tried to murder hundreds of innocent, disarmed people. And then that happened, and then I bookended that career in the DA's office with STEM when two disgruntled students walked into a classroom 107 out here in Highlands Ranch, and tried to murder 24 people, including a teacher, an aide. They ended up killing Kendrick Castillo. And then look, as a military prosecutor, I'm our state's only military judge right now, which if any of you are familiar with the book of Revelations, that's right in there. That's right before the four horsemen as Brockler becomes a judge. So watch out.
So we're close.
Folks. Watch out.
Okay.
Yeah, be careful. Locusts, they be coming, So anyway, they created this new judicial district, first one in 60 years in the state of Colorado. And it just happens to be where we all live. Right. I mean, Jeff, you're out there in Elbert. I've been in Douglas for almost 30 years, and they just carved it out of where we lived. And so all of a sudden, Colorado's first and only of its kind in America term limits for DAs didn't apply.
And you said, you sat in the seat for a while and got to host a radio show. Yeah. What was it, the draw of being part of a new district and running for office again, being a DA again, that appealed to you?
Not having to get up at 3:45 in the morning, Jeff, as you know,
it's a lifestyle change. That's exactly right.
That is a huge thing. Like going to bed at 9 o'clock at night and realizing I might actually be able to slip 7 hours of sleep in here somewhere is crazy. I'll tell you, I've done a bunch of things not as good as you have. Like you and Billy have taken the show to a new level. And now that you've added on Conservative Mama, I presume at this point, there's no chance they'd even let me back in the building. But, you do things that pay more. I never made more money than when I left the DA's office in this last stint. But there's just something that happens behind your breastplate. You know what I mean? That sternum. That doesn't feel the same when you're not doing something that you're super passionate about. And I love the radio. I miss the radio. I listen to you guys every morning because one, I like you, but two, I miss the radio. But nothing really floated my boat like being able to walk into a courtroom. And at the end of the day, if everything goes right, a bad guy's been held accountable. You've done some justice, and maybe you ride off into the sunset in the white hat. I mean, I don't want it to sound too trite, but man, there's something about doing that is satisfying to me in a way that the money isn't.
George, I got to tell you, I've known you for a decade now in the political movement, seen you in lots of different capacities, but I've noticed this kind of underlying desire for justice that exists in your life, almost kind of like a Superman desire to want to help those in need, to want to serve them, to come to their aid, and to acquire justice for this world.
Yeah, listen, I've asked myself why in the world. I never wanted to be a lawyer. I mean, I did not grow up wanting to be a lawyer, despite the fact that my mom in her 40s, with the full support of my dad, went to night school at VU and ended up becoming an attorney, which I thought was our path to riches. But it turns out you can do things with your law degree that don't actually pay a lot of money. But what ended up happening was, I think, in part, my dad is Pentecostal, and my mom, before she passed away 25 years ago, was Roman Catholic. So you try to figure that pairing out. But they both came from a place of true Christianity where it's like, listen, our purpose here on earth in part is to try to ameliorate the pain and the suffering of others that we can. And if you add to that the fact that my mom, and a lot of people don't know this, she was one of the chief investigators for the Office for Civil Rights out here in Denver for years. And her job was to go to places like hospitals and tune them up if they discriminated against minorities like Native Americans in the provision of healthcare services and a bunch of other things. And she took great pride in doing that. And when she got her law degree, I told you I thought we were going to be rich. She would do things like go volunteer to go into hospices and to do powers of attorney and wills for people dying with AIDS. And, that hits you as a kid. You don't really know how until later on in life. But I kind of always grew up with the idea that I hated bullies. And I hate those that victimize others. And it got to be this thing where once I found tripped my way into the law, I wanted to be an armor officer. Like I wanted to drive around in tanks and blow things up. I wanted to go to war, but I didn't want to have to walk to get there. And I thought tanks was the best thing. And I ended up finding my way into the law. And few things were as satisfying as being able to hold bad guys accountable and try to do what you could to make a victim whole in an environment where you can't make a victim whole, right? Like you can't put these things back together. There's not a single person that was in that movie theater back on July 20th, 2012 that'll ever be the same again. Cops, civilians, doesn't matter. And so you can't fix it all, but you can do something, right? You can do something. And this is that something. And I don't know, I have a passion for it.
All right, so you're running for office, and the Denver Post put together a pretty good questionnaire here. What are your top 3 priorities if elected? You write, launching the new DA's office in more than 60 years will be an ongoing effort requiring leadership, experience, teamwork, and community support. You've met with nearly every sheriff and chief of police within the 23rd district, the former DA, members of current and future DA's office. I mean, very clear on building the office. Second, I intend to further develop the office's reputation for preventing and prosecuting victims, aggressively pursuing justice for violent and repeat offenders. And then third, you'll continue to be the most transparent DA's office in Colorado. I want to compare that with your opponent, who, when I read this, it's like, oh, gosh, she should be the DA in San Francisco. Strategies to reduce violent crimes, especially among youth, including early intervention, emphasizing conflict resolution, and measures to reduce gun violence. Number 2, strategies to reduce incarceration for those with substance abuse and mental health issues. It's like she wants to kind of keep people out of jail to the best of her ability. And then she really wants to take on and monitor racial disparities in prosecution and create a conviction integrity unit. Like I said, sounds like a DA for a different city state, not Judicial District 23, which is Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln counties. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, first off, and I can't remember if we talked about this before, Jeff, but we had our one and only debate in front of the Bar Association out there, the Douglas Elbert Bar Association, and it was run by the chief judge, who's the president of the Bar Association. And I guess my take on Karen is that she is a very nice person. I mean, she came up, she said hi, we talked a little bit. She was cordial. The debate was, I think, very collegial and professional, but it was obvious from the word go that this is not a person who woke up in the morning and thought to herself, I could do a great job as DA. Her first minute of describing her background to these almost all attorneys and judges that were in the room was to start off by saying, hi, my name's Karen. I ran for Congress in the 4th. I didn't really do well in the primary, and the party asked me if I'd put my name on the ballot for DA. First sentence. And I thought, well, that's passionate. You know what I mean? Like that, we got to end up doing that. And then when you alternate questions and answers, you know what I mean? Like someone goes first, this time, every single time that she went second, her answer began with, well, I agree with George. Well, I agree with George. And then she'd give some explanation. And, I think earnestly she thinks she might be able to do this job. But I think also those answers reveal what she's done is to go out on the internet and research things and try to incorporate them into an answer. And I'll give you an example. One in the debate, she spent about 5 minutes passionately advocating for vertical prosecution in domestic violence, which means when the arrest gets made, the prosecutor that gets that arrest and does the charging does every aspect of the case all the way through trial and sentencing. And you get a better result with it. You can't do it on 8 billion cases, but you could carve out domestic violence and do it. And she was very passionate about that. And my answer after hers was, well, you're going to be thrilled to hear that we've been doing that in the jurisdiction for 15 years. And she said, oh, good. You talked about her answer with the conviction integrity unit. I stood up a conviction review unit, first one in the office, years ago. And it was with the idea that, listen, I'm totally open to the idea that if somebody's incarcerated who is truly innocent, we got to fix that, and right away. So I had notices placed in every prison common area in the state of Colorado that said, if you are wrongfully convicted, and don't say, hey, witness lied. Don't tell me that, hey, my appeals, I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, I am wrongfully convicted because it's not me, the evidence, blah, blah. And we reviewed every single one of them, and buddy, we didn't come up with a single one. There was no missing DNA thing. There was no, the police destroyed evidence, none of it. But that's just to say that her answers are off the internet, is my guess, not because she has any experience with the job or the jurisdiction. And I don't slight her for running because, as you know, man, and I've said this before, my Achilles heel is completely inexperienced, ill-suited Democrats. I mean, that I was already taken down by one in 2018. It wouldn't
Who
shock
had
me
never
to
been
wake
in a
up on-
courtroom and becomes the attorney
right.
general, but had been in a classroom.
That's right. It's just,
Talking with
dude could be our governor, man. Think about that.
Well, that's probably where it's going. Talking with George Brockler. He's running for district attorney in Judicial District 23. Joining me in studio is Rachel. She goes by the moniker Conservative Mama, conservative activist here in Colorado. Is great following online, uses satire to make fun of the radical left. I mean, I'm looking at Karen. She ran for Congress. She ran as a Democrat in Congressional District 4. I don't think she made it through the caucus process. This was a very short-lived campaign. And then on her website on the University of Colorado, Denver, where she's an instructor in political science, she writes she focuses as an attorney in private practice on environmental and animal rights cases. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's nice to have attorneys that focus in on environmental and animal rights cases, but is that what you want your district attorney to be focused in on? We have a big crime issue. I'm going to ask this to Rachel, and then we'll get over to you, George.
Yeah,
you're going to be a voter in this district, Rachel. Right. This is Douglas County, Elbert County, Lincoln County. Let's rank environmental and animal rights issues versus basic safety and taking on criminals and illegal immigrants in the state.
Very low. Considering what they have, those, like, there are gang members now coming into Douglas County. Have you heard this? And stealing cars. So the crime is only elevating right now, and we need someone that's going to come in and prosecute efficiently and effectively and immediately. So
take on the bad guys.
Yes.
All right, yes. George, what are you going to do to help secure the safety and well-being of the people in your district?
I think I want to take a page out of Denver's book and give people as many chances as they need to realize what they're doing is wrong. Or maybe the AG's book. After they're arrested, after 3 or 4 stolen cars, then maybe you keep them in jail because you start to realize they're just not getting the message.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to take a much different approach. In fact, I've met with all the sheriffs except yours.
Weekly?
Jeff.
Or
no,
out in Elbert County. Thornton.
But
Tim Thornton.
Yeah, Tim is just so friggin' busy in Elbert that our schedule. So he's the last missing piece. But I've met with all the chiefs and the sheriffs, and I'll tell you what's coming is I think we're going to end up doing some kind of a press conference, like a PSA, sometime in December, where I'm going to announce with these hard charging law enforcement executives an approach to law enforcement that I'm going to call old school, but old is new these days. And it's going to be this: if you come into our jurisdiction to victimize us, your expectation should be incarceration. It's going to happen.
Nice.
We're no more of this summonsing you, writing you a ticket, and we'll see you again in a month, and we'll talk about how wrong it is to steal, and then we'll put you on probation, and you can take a theft class where they can emphasize to you how wrong it is to. We're not doing that anymore. People are going to jail. People are going to go to prison. I want these cases to be resolved. I am more in line with the idea that the predictable, timely punishment has more impact on changing behavior. And that's the business that we're in, especially when it comes to property crime. We're trying to change behavior than it does the classification of charge. So I'd be willing to reduce charges down if it will get someone incarcerated more quickly so that they get that association in their mind that, oh, I get it. If I come to Douglas, Elbert, and Lincoln and steal, they're going to hook me up. And the message is going to be loud and clear. If you want to go commit property crimes, there are places that will forgive you all day long. We're not one of them.
Wow. George Brockler, he's running for district attorney in Judicial District 23. His website, georgebrockler.com, georgebrockler.com. We're going to continue our conversation with George as we dive into some of these ballot initiatives that are coming up already on your ballot that have to do with law and order. I'm going to get his perspective on that. You're not going to want to miss it. But look, if you're losing your hair, we got the help you deserve. For many of us, it's happening. Your hair's thinning, your crown's disappearing. Maybe hair loss has you feeling your identity's lost altogether. Well, I've got good news. It's an incredible yet simple one-day treatment that starts growing your own natural hair the very next day, and it's guaranteed to grow for a life. It's the Advanced FUE from Advanced Hair. We've all seen the pills and lotions that come with monthly subscriptions. Yeah, they might help retain what you have, but one of what you want is your own natural hair growing permanently in specific areas. From Advanced Hair state-of-the-art facilities to world-class Dr. Tanya Pauls, it's not maybe will your hair regrow, it's guaranteed that your new hair will grow. You decide how much, how thick, and where. It's why Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver. For your free consultation, $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Call 720-459-HAIR. That's 720-459-HAIR or advancedhair.com. Look, I've had family members get their hair done, got into their 30s and 40s, started to fall out. These guys got it taken care of, and it brought back a youthfulness. They look great in pictures. It brought up their energy. Check out Advanced Hair at advancedhair.com. It can really help your life. All right, we'll continue with George Brockler. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The Indiana Attorney General is appealing after a federal judge ruled that an inmate who was convicted of strangling an 11-month-old baby to death can receive a sex change on the taxpayer's dime. Attorney General Todd Rokita said that convicted baby killers do not have a constitutional right to gender transition surgeries. The judge made the ruling after the ACLU filed a lawsuit against the Indiana DOC last year on behalf of Jonathan Richardson, aka Autumn, who was convicted of killing his stepdaughter back in 2001. The ACLU argued that the law prohibiting the Department of Corrections from using taxpayer dollars on sex changes is, quote, cruel and unusual punishment. The extended family of Eric and Lyle Menendez will advocate for the brothers' release from prison following the 1989 killings of their parents in Beverly Hills. Wednesday's news conference in downtown Los Angeles comes after the LA County District Attorney announced that prosecutors are reviewing new evidence to determine whether they should be serving life sentences. The brothers admitted to the crime, but at the time, they said they feared their parents were about to kill them in order to keep them from reporting their father's alleged sexual molestation of Eric. Eric, now 53, and his 56-year-old brother Lyle are currently serving life without parole in state prison. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill. He's out today. He'll be back tomorrow. He's had a fun night with his family at Red Rocks, so we're giving him the morning off. Joining me in studio is Rachel. She goes by that moniker, Conservative Mama. You know her in conservative circles in Colorado. She's got a great satire page on X, YouTube, and Instagram. Conservative Mama. Follow her over there. We're joined by George Brockler. You know that name. He sat in this seat for a while. He's now running for district attorney, Judicial District 23. All right, Jorge, I got to ask you about some of these amendments here. I want to start with this Judicial Discipline Board one. You've been in that. It seems like I followed the Gazette's leading on this one. They've done some investigations, said some of the judges were getting away with stuff that they maybe shouldn't have. What do you think of Amendment H creates an independent Judicial Discipline Board?
Yeah, I am reluctantly supportive of it. It's definitely an improvement. And I wrote a column on this in the Gazette. It's definitely a step in the right direction from where we're at, which is to try to provide greater transparency and control over a branch that largely has gone without it for decades. But there's a big hole in it, and that is that the board that gets appointed, this commission that does some of these discipline reviews, is appointed 100% by the governor, and there are no requirements that it be geographically diverse or even of a certain composition. Now, you've seen in the law, a lot of these boards will say you can't have more than 2 members from any one party, or you can't. This has none of that. So these commissions that can stand up could be 100% appointed by Jared Polis, and every single one of the members, attorney and otherwise, could be Democrats out of Denver. Now, that doesn't make any sense.
And we know
judges from across the state.
We know how well those boards, like the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, treat people they disagree with. I think they call them Nazis. Right. They drag them before tribunals. Our friend Jack Phillips knows very well how governor-appointed boards can work out, but still, it needs the judiciary needs some accountability, right?
They do. It's a step in the right direction, and I we can't let the good be, or the perfect be the enemy of the good in this particular one. I would say this: if you have any doubts, by the way, about whether a Governor Polis would fairly distribute these things, you need only take a look at all the metro area judicial nominating commissions, all the judges on there for the entire metro area plus El Paso County. There are 4 Republicans out of, I think, 24 judicial nominating commissioners. 4 Republicans. El Paso County is one of the most Republican counties in the state of Colorado, and I think they have 1.
George, I got so many questions about judges and how to vote. Do you have any guide? Do you know of anybody who knows? I can't be left up to this because my take's always been kind of like vote no because most of them are appointed by Polis. But
did some of them? Are some of them responsible for kicking Trump off the ballot? Are any of those judges up? Because I want to know if they are.
Well, that's a super great question too, and the answer is yes. There are Supreme Court justices that were part of that split decision. But if you look at it, the judges that I believe that are on the ballot this year, only one of them, and I'd want to confirm this, I think, voted with the majority to keep Trump off the ballot.
Okay.
So, I think Boatwright and Marquez justices, and I got to do a disclaimer here. Brian Boatwright was my mentor at the DA's office in Jeffco. He's the most ethical attorney I've ever worked with. I mean, he was a great person to learn how to prosecute from.
What's your advice to somebody that wants guidance on these judges?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great question. There's a blue book out there that's for judicial performance review, but in my opinion, and the people that do this are smart, they're hardworking, they do it for free, they're earnest, and it is garbage. And it's garbage because they're not allowed to address certain things like who's the most overturned judge, in the jurisdiction. They're not allowed to look at how many times they've been overturned. The Gazette, Dave Magoya did a big deep dive on this. There are judges that absolutely suck at this. It would like being a ref in the NFL and having all your calls overturned or a chunk of them. You'd say maybe you shouldn't ref anymore. We're not allowed to know that. So the blue book doesn't tell you much. Like you'd have to kill another judge in front of judges to even run the risk of do not retain. So I don't think that's super helpful. I get a ton of calls in this day and age saying, what should we do? People that you know well, Jeff, political people who are like, what should we do with the judges? Let me give you without knowing every judge in the state, and I can talk to you, Jeff, offline about ours. The trick is this. You cannot ask yourself, can we do better than this judge? Because we don't control any of the levers of nomination or appointment. Those are all controlled 100% by Democrats. All you should really do to analyze this is, could we do worse? And there are some circumstances where we can't do worse. But remember, if you kick a Supreme Court justice off, Polis just gets to reappoint another one.
Another one.
And so you got to look and say, this one may not be perfect, but my God, what could we get as this dude tries to campaign for president? Same thing with some of the judges that were Hickenlooper appointees that, yes, Democrat appointees, but, you know, still maybe decent judges. You kick them off just by saying no down the whole ballot. Polis gets to reappoint into those positions. So the analysis is so screwed up in Colorado because it's not, could we do better? It's really, could we do worse?
We've got a caller here that I think has a relevant question. Let's go to Carol Lakewood. Good morning, Carol. You're on the Jeff and Bill show with Conservative Mama and George Brockler. We're having a party here today.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to ask a question. We did our ballot on Saturday. And the thing that's confusing, too, about judges is they don't put they're Democrat or Republican. So what we had to do is look up on Google all these judges to make sure we weren't voting for a Democrat. So I think Boatwright was on our ballot. I think we voted for him. I can't remember. But yeah, I just don't understand why they don't put Democrat or Republican on them.
Yeah, good question. George.
Yeah, they can't be politically affiliated. They can't be partisan. It is a practice of the bench that you're not to be a registered this or that. The real trick is, and we've seen more of this brazenness lately because of who dominates government, you will find judges donating to Democrats leading up to their appointment. I'll give you a case in chief, and Conservative Mama brought this thing up. Remember the case about keeping Trump off the ballot?
Mm-hmm.
That particular judge, who did not recuse herself, had given money to the attorney general who was sitting at the table defending the Secretary of State's decision, and had also given money to, I can't remember, some fund opposing Donald Trump.
Wow.
And so it's like, well, wait a minute. And this is before she became a judge. This is while she was waiting to be appointed to be a judge. She'd been nominated. She hadn't been appointed yet. And while I still will believe that she's doing the best job she can and she's smarter than I am and applied the law the way she thinks best, that looks like crap to the public. And so we don't get to know things like that because they're not supposed to be partisan.
Wow. Talking with George Brockler. He's running for district attorney in Judicial District 23, brand new district created with Elbert, Lincoln, and Douglas County. We're going through some of the ballot initiatives. Let's talk about the remove the right to bail in cases of first-degree murder when the proof is evident or the presumption is great. Amendment I. I'm in support of this one. George?
Yeah, listen, here's what happened. We have a constitutional amendment, Colorado Constitution, a provision of it, not an amendment, that says everybody is entitled to bail unless, and that unless includes if you're charged with a potential capital case where proof is evident and presumption is great. That means there's a ton of evidence that suggests you did this. And under that limited circumstance, those horrible murderers, like the Aurora Theater murderer, like the STEM murderers, like Boulder, like Club Q, the judge can say there's no amount of money on the planet Earth that's going to get you out of jail before your trial. Well, when the Democrats in the legislature and Polis signed away our death penalty under the cover of COVID, that's why people weren't really tracking it, that did away with all the potential capital cases. And so the Supreme Court came in and said, well, if there's no potential capital cases and the language of the Constitution is pretty clear, that means everybody, including the Club Q shooter, including the Boulder shooter, are entitled to bail. And so this is a provision that has to be an amendment to the Constitution that changes it, that says, no, that's all right. If it's first-degree murder, whether or not it's a capital crime. Now, I've had a lot of people, conservatives, call me and say, or text me and say, well, can't the judge just, withhold bail anyway? I'm like, no, the Constitution mandates it. This is the only way to create a vehicle for a judge to say, what you've done is so horrible and dangerous, and I don't think that there's a lot of doubt here as to the evidence pending your trial. We're going to withhold bail. This is it. This is the only way to do it.
No, I'm in support of it. We got to get that back. All right, let's talk Proposition 130. Create the Peace Officer Training and Support Fund to provide funding for law enforcement training, retention, and hiring training surrounding the use of force and death benefits for surviving spouses and children of officers or first responders killed in the line of duty. I'm supportive of this one. George?
Yeah, I'm actually, if you don't mind me asking, Conservative Mama, if you're there, have you read this one?
I have not read this one. I'm reading it right now, actually.
So here's where I've heard from some conservatives where they're like, $350 million. Like, where's that coming from?
Yeah.
That's a great question. It's coming from the legislature. And the way I try to posture this thing is this. Right now, without this change in the law, that $350 million can go to anything our progressive controlled legislature wants, including how do we come up with coloring books about transgender woodchucks so we can try to convince kids this is okay, right? Like they can do anything they want with it. This law would say you are going to take $350 million and apply it to the recruiting, training, and retention of officers because you crushed all of that with your post-George Floyd changes in the law that made cops personally liable for every mistake they make, all that stuff. And on top of that, we're going to create $1 million death benefit for those killed in the line of duty. And I had 4 of them when I was DA, 4 killed in the line of duty. And this is a way to try to embolden and empower law enforcement agencies to go out and now start to get again the best of the best to do the hardest work to keep us safest. This is a way to tie the hands of the legislature because that $350 million goes to the Department of Public Safety. It goes to the Division of Public Safety. They don't get to decide where it goes.
Okay. Do they mention the $350 million in the blue book? Because I don't see it on here.
I'm not sure if they do.
They better because it's $350 million.
Yeah, it's $350. There was some confusion early on that this might be a tax increase.
Yeah.
It's not a tax increase. It literally, and then there's folks that are saying, well, voters shouldn't be telling the legislature where to spend their money. So
I disagree.
Yeah.
Tabor.
Yeah.
Like you can't spend more than
you might end up with progressives going, we need $100 billion to go towards education and run that through. And now we have no more money to do anything else in the state. But look, George, to your point, the BLM movements, the defund the police movements, the prosecute police because they breathe wrong. The whole effort has decimated the ranks of our police operations in this state. It has led to more crime. And I don't blame somebody for not wanting to be a cop right now.
No.
We talk to people in my life all the time that are former law enforcement. I ask them, would you be a cop today? Absolutely not. So they've got to rebuild that. And if the voters of Colorado are taking the libs down at the state capitol and saying, you got to carve this out of your budget because you have to fix something that your policies broke and it makes our community safer, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah. Me too. And it actually takes state tax dollars and pushes them into the communities. Like law enforcement is largely locally funded, whether it's municipal or our county with our sheriffs. State patrol, CBI are probably the only state funded ones. This tells them you're going to take some of this money. Since you created this problem, state, you're going to take some of this money and you're going to use it to help some of these jurisdictions that are struggling with the training and the recruiting and the retention and all that other stuff. It's a one-time thing too, by the way. It's not a recurring $350 million. It's a one-time fund that exists.
Okay.
And it acts like grants.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We've got to run up against a break here. George, I'm going to ask you about Proposition 128. When we return, you're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
I'll be here.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Bill's out for the good day. He'll be back tomorrow. Don't worry. Y'all can angry text Bill and give him a call and give that good old back and forth we have here on the Jeff and Bill Show starting again tomorrow. But we got George Brockler with us. George, we only got about a minute or two. Proposition 128, change parole eligibility requirements for offenders convicted of violent crimes. I'm supportive of this one. Prop 128, your thoughts?
Yeah, real quick before we cut away here, for those of you on YouTube, you've seen this is my homage to last night's interview, and my takeaway is never wrestle a bear because it didn't turn out well. 128 is this one where, hey, conservative mama, if I asked you, when someone, a violent criminal, is sentenced to prison, what percentage of their sentence do you think they serve, and what do you think they should serve?
I think if I was just like a naive, I know they don't serve as much, but I would think, oh, they're going to go away for what they said they're going away for. You know what I'm saying? That's, I think, what the general public thinks. So if it's life, it's life. It's 10 years, it's 10 years. I didn't know, I know it can be reduced and reduced.
Life is life for sure. But I think most people would be shocked to know that right now, violent criminals get sentenced to a number and they end up serving less than half of it before they become parole eligible. They're giving something called earn time. You don't earn it. It's given to you the moment you walk out of the courtroom, a big shave off the top. You get good time for things like don't kill someone. Real quickly here, there is online, you can find this. There are penalties where you lose good time if you do bad things in prison. So here's what it is, and people don't know this. If you rape another inmate, you could lose 45 days of your good time. If you stab another inmate, you could lose 60. If you murder another inmate, you could lose up to 90, but no more than that.
90 days?
I guess I'm old school.
That's
90 days.
crazy.
That's right. In my mind, I thought, maybe you lose all your good time if you rape, stab, or kill any other inmate, what?
Wow.
So this would mandate 85% of a sentence. So if someone gets 10 years, man, they're going to serve 8 years, 6 months before they get a look at parole. Right now, they'd get less than 5 years. They'd be looking at probably about 4 years transition to a halfway house or a community corrections. It needs to happen. And let me make this plug too. 80. I am the father of 4 charter school going kids. They've all turned out fantastic. We need to protect school choice.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. That one's kind of gotten pulled in a weird direction with the homeschoolers, but Christy Burton Brown came on the show, did a great job addressing some of the concerns that all of a sudden giving a right to a quality education means that the kids can have a right against their parents for that. But I don't know if you want to address that constitutionally, but it seems like a reach to me.
No, that's not true. Really what it does, and Christy did a good job of describing this, is there is an undefined term out there that this would define it and put it in the Constitution, so the legislature can't define a quality education as whatever we tell you it should be.
That's right.
What we need.
George Brockler, follow him at georgebrockler.com. He's up for election. George, thanks so much for joining the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, October 17th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt. Bill Thorpe out today. He was having fun at Red Rocks last night, so we gave him the morning off. But don't worry, he'll be back with us tomorrow. We're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver, and let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Those text messages come right here into the studio. Would love to hear your thoughts. In light of Bill being out, Rachel, also known as Conservative Mama, is joining us live in studio. She does these great satires. Now, Rachel, before we get to the news and comment with Blake Olson, tell me how you got into satire. Like you act like a progressive mom sometimes, Kamala Harris.
Yes,
You're always making fun of the left.
I have a background in acting and all of that stuff. I grew up doing the theater thing and did the Hollywood scene and all of that. And then my dad actually ran for Congress years ago. And I was completely naive to the world of politics. Like it wasn't my world. But when he lost, I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And it totally like woke something inside of me. And so I decided to start getting involved, get engaged. And then it was after Trump won in 2016 that I was like, maybe I should like incorporate like my background and kind of play these people. So I'll do multiple characters and just play it all out. It's fun. I love it.
You can check it out at X, Instagram, YouTube, Conservative Mama, and she's a fixture in the conservative scene here in Colorado as well. Honored to have her joining us. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Rachel. 58 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 74 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
He's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, Kamala Khan, what a fraud. Give her credit, though. She did a short interview with Bret Baier on Fox News Channel last night.
You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
You know, I grew up in a middle-class household.
Oh, wait a minute. That was George.
That is awesome.
Oh, man, leave it to George. He took the words right out of my mouth. Back to Kamala Khan.
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
You hear that? All right, she blamed everything on DJT, including the southern border. She's the border czar, total con. Here's Scott Jennings on CNN.
She has no answer for why Biden and Harris threw out Donald Trump's executive orders and changed everything, and then a flood of people came in. An ounce of humility here would go a long way, and she doesn't have it in her to do it, and she has no real answer other than to blame Congress. And Brett was right. Democrats controlled everything when they took over, and so is she saying it's the Democrats' fault that the immigration system is broken? I don't understand this. I don't understand why she can't just say, hindsight here, we shouldn't have done it. I think the American people would actually accept it, but she won't do it.
Brian Stelter thought Kamala Khan was incredible.
I think this strategy from Harris was a Google strategy. She wanted Fox viewers to start to Google some of the things she was saying, because some of the comments she was making in this interview are foreign to the Fox audience. For example, General Mark Milley saying Trump is a fascist to the core. That's barely been covered on Fox News. So she was able to get some of those talking points in. This was the most adversarial interview Kamala Harris has probably ever done. Instead of getting to debate Trump again, she got to debate Bret Baier. And a lot of viewers are going to come away saying, wow, she's willing to do that. That's a sign of toughness and strength.
But she won't apologize to those whose family members were murdered by illegals in this country.
Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that.
Oh, she's tough on Bear, tough on Trump, but not on illegals who murder Americans. Someone who is tough on crime, George Brockler on last hour, former host of this show, running for DA, District 23. So quick, great sense of humor, but he takes being a DA very seriously. And it appears that his opponent doesn't have near the experience or passion for the job, or up to snuff on District 23.
She spent about 5 minutes passionately advocating for vertical prosecution in domestic violence, which means when the arrest gets made, the prosecutor that gets that arrest and does the charging does every aspect of the case all the way through trial and sentencing. And you get a better result with it. You can't do it on 8 billion cases, but you could carve out domestic violence and do it. And she was very passionate about that. And my answer after hers was, well, you're going to be thrilled to hear that we've been doing that in the jurisdiction for 15 years.
Wow. All right. The family of an Oregon man says he has disappeared after missing a weekend flight from Denver International.
I hope someone can locate him and get him in contact with me so I can help figure out how to get him home.
That's Brianna Winsbury, a sister of 35-year-old Jesse George. She says Jesse flew from Medford to DIA on Sunday and was scheduled to board a connecting flight to Arkansas. He never boarded that Monday flight, and his family is still waiting to hear from him. Airport officials say his luggage is still being held in Denver, and police have been notified about his alleged disappearance. His sister said mental health could be at play, and he was using a temporary ID and had issues at TSA. Students at CSU returned to class after back-to-back safety alerts. Police found a person dead inside a dorm room Wednesday, but aren't revealing any details. That triggered a shelter in place for about 90 minutes, and then hours later, another one was issued after someone was attacked with a knife last night. Police say the suspect ran off. Broncos at the Saints tonight. Thursday night football from the Big Easy. 56 in Highlands Ranch, 54 in Westminster, 58 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue with Rachel, conservative mama, in for Billy, doing a great job. It's Thursday. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
The weather will be changing, but for another day, it'll still be mild. Temperatures today will likely make the 70s under partly cloudy skies. Increasing clouds later on. Tonight, turning colder, chance for showers developing late, then colder Friday, 50s and low 60s and falling with developing showers Friday night, Saturday into Sunday. Weather sponsored by branchplanning.com. Secure your future retirement with a reliable income stream. Annuities can provide guaranteed payments, giving you peace of mind. Get your complimentary review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're taking your calls at 303-696-1971 or your text messages on the Dan Kaplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. All right, you hear it all the time. The girls, the ladies, the women, they don't like Donald Trump. He's toxic masculinity, and they're standing with their gal pal, Kamala Harris. But Rachel Keene, who joins us live in studio here, Rachel, conservative mama. I heard this. It sounds like Donald Trump is walking out to the Beatles.
Yes.
I want to introduce the 45th President of the United States, the Republican nominee for this year's presidential election, Donald J. Trump. Welcome. So I have to tell you,
wow.
Love it.
I love the answer. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't even think he was expecting that. Now, Rachel, also known as conservative mama here in Colorado, the media says that women hate Donald Trump. You hear that? You're around conservative women. My wife, who's about as conservative as you can get, was more excited about the Trump rally than I was. She was fangirling all about it. Where's the disconnect? Obviously, there's some women that don't like Donald Trump, and they make up a good portion of the Democrat Party right now. But seems like there's a lot of ladies who are pretty excited about his presidency.
I think that women are really starting to come around now, especially with the immigration being such a highlight, the illegal immigration being such a highlight, and how it has endangered women having this open border, and how and endangered women and children. So I think that women are like, enough of this. Like, that's my number one. We can talk about our bodily rights later. So I think that more and more women are starting to wake up and come on board, which is exciting. Finally.
I mean, he talks a lot about the idea of safety, of returning to normalcy. And you think about the old kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and, you know, what was really important, how we prioritize other stuff. This might have been before you got into politics, but back in 2014, Mark Udall talked about abortion so much
your uterus
that they started to call him Mark Uterus, right?
Yes.
Because it was like, dude, you're so out of touch.
Yeah.
It might be one thing that I care about, but I care about a lot more. But you only talk about one thing.
I think it's insulting, isn't it? To limit women to only one issue. Like, I'm not supposed to care about foreign policy. I'm not supposed to care about gas, inflation, paying my bills. I'm not supposed to care about the open border. I'm not supposed to care about a possible potential World War III. Like, I'm just supposed to care about the right to kill my baby in the womb. I mean, it's actually, it's offensive. It should be offensive to every woman out there that they pivot you into just one tiny thing that you're only supposed to care about. Like, that's offensive to me. I care about a lot more than that.
Absolutely. And as right, you should. Speaking of things that they care about, listen to the response to this issue. This was not planned to be a major political issue in this election. The pundits didn't think it was. Listen to this conversation.
How many of you are worried about biological men and boys competing against women and girls in sports? Just show me. That's almost that is the entire room. And I know you have a question.
I do.
By the way, excuse me, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Your question, your name and your hometown.
My name is Linda, and I'm from Milton, Georgia.
Good.
But originally Brooklyn, New York.
Oh,
I'd get that in there. My question is, how do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Right. It's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. You look, just yesterday, they had a volleyball match. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Where a person that transitioned, okay? We have to be very careful because this can terminate your political career if you say it's slightly off, all right? But transitioned from man to female and was on a volleyball. And I saw the slam. It was a slam. I never saw a ball hit so hard, hit the girl on the head. But other people, even in volleyball, they've been permanently, they've been really hurt badly, women playing men. But you don't have to do the volleyball. We stop it. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. Physically, from a muscular, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else. Look at what's happened in swimming. Look at the records that are being broken.
So how do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just ban
councils?
it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen. listen, not a big deal.
Every single woman in that town hall raised her hand on that issue. They cheered loudly when he just said, we're going to ban it. Talking to Rachel, also known as Conservative Mama, why has that issue penetrated in this election in a way that the pundits didn't expect it to?
I think it's just women finally having had enough of this. And I think it's it is the ultimate display of misogyny. Like, we're just basically erasing women. You have no rights. You have no say. You shut your mouth. You shut your face. And we're going to put a male in here. He's going to dress up like a woman and he's going to just overtake your sport. And if he injures you in the process, oh, well, get over it. Who cares? It's so evil, like, to women. And I think that women at this point are like, enough of this. And I think we visualize our daughters. I have 2 girls. We visualize them playing sports. Both of my girls play volleyball. I don't want them to get hurt. I don't want them to get nailed in the face like that one player did, permanently brain damaged now because of a volleyball coming at their head at 80 miles an hour. That's insane. It's, again, comes back to the moms. Protect your kids. And I love it that a lot of these players now, these women volleyball players are rising up and they're refusing to play now. Like, if you're going to have a guy facing us, you got some dude over there, we're not playing. And we need more and more women to say, we're not doing it. And that's how you shut this down. And a shout out to all the women out there that are finally starting to see it and rise up.
Well, strategically, it's a bizarre place that Democrats refuse to release, right? So there was a great article about, and I think it was in the New York Times, about how this advertisement, particularly the one around sex change operations for illegal immigrants, has penetrated. Brett Baer talks about it with Kamala Harris last night. That thing broke through, right? And most ads don't break through. And Democrat strategists are, and even Republican strategists are pointing out that this is like such a tiny sliver of actual people that are getting sex change operations, yet the Democrats won't release the issue, or men and women's sports. How many dudes are performing in women's sports? It's not population-wise, it's not a big population, but it goes to show just how out of touch they are on policies and priorities. And they won't let it go. That it's the Democrats that are holding on to it. No. We have to, for some reason, we have to defend the right of men to play in women's sports.
Right, because they want to convince you that it's not a man, it's a woman.
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying earlier, Jeff, off air, like they can't define a woman, right? They don't want to be able to define a woman. It's taking all truth and reality away so that you are left kind of like with this glob of whatever you are, and there's nothing is anchored in truth anymore. And then they can manipulate you and convince you to believe anything. And we have to come back to truth. There's male and there's female. And I don't care if you're dressing up like a man, that doesn't make dressing up like a woman, that doesn't make you a woman. And so I think that that's why they're holding on to it so much, because they want to get you to the point where you're like this empty vessel and you'll believe whatever they tell you. So if they agree with us on that, then we're no longer pliable, and they want you to be pliable and easily manipulated.
Talking with Rachel, she's also known as Conservative Mama here in Colorado conservative circles, but she's just got a national following where she does satire against the left on X, YouTube, and Instagram. Go to Conservative Mama. They're hilarious. They'll make your day. You have a lot of fun with them. This is the question I got for our listeners. Wall Street Journal yesterday, gender gap is defining feature of deadlock Trump-Harris race. All right, so we're 19 days out. All the pundits, all the experts are reading this going, it comes down to gender. Democrats are going with the women, or women are going with the Democrats. Men are going with the Republicans. Okay. So now you've got 19 days. Kamala Harris tries to appeal to men going on Fox. I said yesterday, I don't think the Joe Rogan thing's actually going to happen. Trump goes and does a town hall with just women. 19 days. Who's bridging the gap better? Who's closing better? And who's ultimately going to win? I would like to hear from you. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. That's 720-819-5115. When you hear Donald Trump walk out before women like this,
I want to introduce the 45th President of the United States, the Republican nominee for this year's presidential election, Donald J. Trump. Welcome. So I have to tell you.
Wow. Wow. I think Donald Trump is bridging the gap better than Kamala Harris is. I'm not sure what Kamala could do at all. I mean, white dudes for Harris is got to be the lamest thing out there. No guy I know is like, you know what I'm going to do with my evening? Jump on a Zoom with white dudes for Harris. I think that fell flat.
Did you see the Twitter video that they put out?
Oh,
it was
terrible.
so bad.
By the way, I have the audio on
Oh
that.
my
Here you go.
gosh.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough.
I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Meat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500, then braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast. I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as shit am not afraid of. Women. I'm not afraid of women. I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies? Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president? Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement. Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions. Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women. Or one of those pants books that the sisters like. I'm man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it. I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse. I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually. Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story. That and Predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful. That's not how my mama raised me. I love women. I love women who support their families.
Women who decide not to have families.
Women who take charge. And I'm man enough to help them win.
So that was Kamala's
Oh my
effort.
gosh.
And somebody looked into these actors, and I don't know if it's totally true because you can't trust what you see on the internet, but the idea that some of those guys have even seen a carburetor.
No, I eat carburetors for breakfast.
Right.
Who says full-throated endorsement? I'm sorry. What? And then raw dog a flight? Stop. Ew. Like what?
It didn't connect with me as a dude.
No.
I don't know if Kelly is all of a sudden now feeling like he wants to support Kamala Harris. But back to my question, who's bridging the gap better? You listen to that ad, and every guy I know looks at that ad and is like, well, that's lame and stupid. And then you listen to the ladies as Trump walks out, and I go, he's bridging the gap better.
Yeah, he's resonating.
I think he's closing better.
Mhm.
Let's go to Rod Littleton. Good morning, Rod. You're on the Jeff and Bill show with Rachel, also known as Conservative Mama. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, it was funny. You just played that I'm a man video, whatever they call it. I watched a thing came up on Facebook this morning. This guy deconstructed it, and all the guys on there are woke actors from Hollywood that are failed. They're one's a failed comedian. It just everything in that was posed.
Oh, so bad.
It's not going up and saying, hey, why are you supporting? And you get the on the street thing. Everything was posed from the one guy that's sitting there. He described it as the pose from like the 80s or 90s.
Right.
Where
When
he's
he's
got
sitting on
the guy sitting there
with
and
his
his head
hands,
is superimposed on above it. So it's got the double exposure. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was satire. I did. Like originally.
That's what I thought too. That's what I thought.
Now,
But
I mean, Rod, I got to ask you, we played some audio from women when Donald Trump walked out on that all women's town hall, and it sounded like Justin Bieber walked out there. I mean, the screaming and the excitement.
Yep. And, you know, my wife and I talk about it. She does not like Donald Trump just because of his persona, but she's voting for him because she sees Kamala Harris as just the worst candidate ever.
Yeah.
You know, Joe Biden was worse than Jimmy Carter. She would be far worse than anybody.
Yeah. Rod, I got to ask you, at what point do you think we'll finally have a woman president? And if you had to look out, and I'll ask this to you as well, Rachel, if you had to look out there in folks coming up in the Republican or even the Democrat movement, who do you think is actually going to break that glass ceiling, become the first female president? I'll start with you, Rachel.
Like, as you mentioned earlier, and you said Tulsi Gabbard, I could actually see that now that you've said it, because she pulls a ton of the middle, and she could even pull some just blue dog Democrats if there are any left. And then definitely on the right, I could totally see her. And she's so composed. She comes across very, like, even last night you saw Kamala, she got a little hysterical, and you can't have that. You cannot have that if you're the most powerful, you're in that most powerful position in the world. Like, you have to be very composed. And I've never seen Tulsi Gabbard riled ever.
Right. I mean,
like, ever.
And
she's
that
always
military background, very statesmanlike. Rod, who do you think is going to break that glass ceiling if you looked out on the spectrum now?
I agree. Tulsi would be awesome. You know, I think, unfortunately, it's going to take, for a Republican female to get it, it's going to take somebody that nobody can pull any crap on. You know, Tulsi, they probably can a little bit, but I don't know. But the great thing is, she's a combat vet. She could take it.
That's exactly right.
I would love to see a woman president. You know, on the level of Margaret Thatcher, that type of persona, somebody who could come in and say, you know what, nobody's going to push me around. I'm going to protect the interest of my country, which is something that Kamala is not going to do.
Rod, I've heard that over and over again, that longing for the Iron Lady,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
Tough, strong, compassionate, but she has it all. And when you watch Kamala's debate or interview performance yesterday, she's not prepared for the job. She's not honest about what she believes. She'll never take responsibility for any of the mistakes. She's like the exact opposite of Margaret Thatcher. And that's why I think, you know, people aren't interested in electing her. Rod, really appreciate the call. Great call. Rod from Littleton, his phone line will be open 303-696-1971. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Attorney General Ken Paxton racked up a major win for the state of Texas after he secured a stay from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, allowing the ban on voter harvesting schemes to remain through the November election. Paxton filed suit after a judge ruled that the ban violated the Constitution and At this hour, I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Attorney General Ken Paxton racked up a major win for the state of Texas after he secured a stay from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, allowing the ban on voter harvesting schemes to remain through the November election. Paxton filed suit after a judge ruled that the ban violated the Constitution and also banned the AG from investigating violations. Paxton immediately appealed and won, saying, "We fought hard to ensure that the Texas laws protecting the ballot box will be in full force and effect this election season. I will continue to do everything in my power to protect the integrity of our political process." The Texas Board of Pardons has denied a request for clemency for a man who this week could be the first person in the U.S. that is executed for a murder conviction after allegedly killing a child via shaken baby syndrome. The parole board voted against recommending that Robert Roberson's death sentence should be commuted to life in prison or that his execution be delayed. Roberson is set for a lethal injection Thursday evening for the 2002 killing of his 2-year-old daughter, Nikki Curtis. Roberson has maintained his innocence. Governor Greg Abbott can only grant clemency after receiving a recommendation from the board. Abbott does have the power, however, to grant a one-time 30-day reprieve without a board recommendation. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy's out today. I'll be back tomorrow. Joining me is Rachel. She's also known as Conservative Mama. She likes to spoof the left. Chrissy's great satires. Be sure to follow her on X, YouTube, or Instagram. All right, Rachel, this was the most powerful moment for me at Trump's all-women's town hall that took place yesterday. Talks about child tax credits.
Hi, my name is Rachel Rachel S. here from Cumming, Georgia. I'm a single mom to 2 kids here. And just in 3.5 years, my child tax credit has decreased by 80% almost.
You get what? Excuse me?
Her child
Sorry, this-
tax credit
Oh,
has
tax-
decreased by 80%.
That's
Sorry, my child tax credit
Right.
has decreased by almost
Right.
80%. Daycare for the lowest amount is roughly $1,400 a month for one child here.
Yeah.
Last year, I broke my neck. I almost lost.
You have a beautiful voice, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I'm having a panic attack right now. Like, don't panic.
I'm right
my
here with you.
But last year I had broken my neck and I tried applying for any kind of assistance and was denied because I did not make less than $700 a month. And I'm shaking like a freaking leaf. I cannot stop. So I could not afford daycare. I obviously was having to go through physical therapy and a lot of issues, and I'm still having issues to this day.
Right, I understand.
But what kind of realistic changes that do you think you can provide single parents, married parents, any kind of parent to just simply afford children in today's world with the
And
way
it's not
things
fair,
are?
right? It is not fair.
No.
You never heard of Ivanka, right? Ivanka. My daughter drove me crazy on this. We had the simplest, most beautiful, I gave you the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, okay? Larger than the Reagan cuts, larger. But my daughter, Ivanka, she said, Dad, we have to do tax credits for women, for the child tax credits. She was driving me crazy. Then I did it, and I got it just about done. Dad, you've got to double it up. I said, Ivanka, it was actually more complicated than the entire bill, but I got it done. And what we're going to do, and I'm going to make, because I understand exactly what you're saying, we're going to readjust things so that it's fair to everybody, because it's really not fair to everybody. But we have a lot. And we're going up higher, but we're also going to readjust because you have to make some readjustments. It's unfair to some people, and we're not going to have that. But she was the one that got it started. Those were our credits. Those were not the Democrat credits. A lot of Republicans said, rightfully, don't do it because we never get credit for that. We're not known for that. But the truth is, I wanted to put it all in the form of the tax cut. So I got the maximum tax cut, but we're also bringing down the taxes for companies and for people. We're bringing it down to 15%. And for companies, only if you make your product, build your product in the USA. Otherwise, you don't get it.
So I love that exchange for a few reasons. One, I like the insight into Trump-Ivanka relationship,
Yeah.
right? Like he's a dad who's
Father-daughter,
the
yeah.
father-daughter. My daughter, she kept bringing it, but he does it in a very jovial way. It gives you insight that he listens to her, that he takes her feedback seriously. And then I also loved how he treated the woman. I can't imagine how nervous she was. I would be nervous too, shaking like a leaf. He compliments her.
Totally
he
calms
tries
her
to calm her down, all that stuff, and just be a genuine guy. What was your take on that?
I loved it. And I think we don't see that side of Trump a lot. And I think that, of course, the media tries to villainize him and just he's Satan himself. But he is very kind. And I've actually had a couple encounters with him myself. It was back in 2020. He was flying into Colorado Springs and I had the opportunity to meet him on the tarmac. Okay. And so he's getting off of Air Force One and he's walking towards these crowd of people that are down there waiting for him. And I'm filming it. So my camera is facing out. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's walking over here. He's walking towards us. Oh my gosh. And he's walking and he walks up to me. And I was like, and I can't talk. I was like that lady. I was like flubbing my words. And I was like, can I get a picture? Can I get a picture? And so I'm trying to change my stupid camera on my phone, but it won't flip around. And he pats me on the shoulder. He goes, take your time. Take your time. He's like, it's okay. And I was like, and there's all these people rushing him to he totally stood there, waited for me to turn the camera around, takes a selfie with me, pats me back on the back and moves on. But it was there was this moment of just it was reassuring. It was comforting, hey, it's okay. No rush, just very calming. And we don't get that a lot from him. So we don't see that a lot from him, but we saw it with this woman here in this town hall. And I personally experienced it. And I just wish that we got to see more of that because that is the side of Trump that I know. And it was really cool to
So
see
if
that.
you were his advisors, you're going 19 days out. You performed very well at an all-women's town hall. Kamala Harris, there's nothing she's going to do that's going to draw men over
Right.
at this point.
Right.
I don't
Right.
know if you saw this, but she's losing black voters, particularly black men.
Mhm.
Comes out with this plan that's like, basically, we'll give you $20,000 grants
Mhm.
based upon your race. The thing's never going to fly legally.
No.
It won't get through. So it seems like all this desperation's coming out on Kamala Harris' side. Just anybody, we'll give you free stuff. Please just vote for me, right? You're Donald Trump's advisor. I'm just putting you in that position. You're not actually an advisor, but let's say you're in his position. You have over 26,000 followers on Instagram yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You connect with women.
Mm-hmm.
How's Donald Trump close the deal with women between now and the election?
I would put out more of the grandpa side of him, to be honest with you.
Why is that?
Because I think women, you long for that. As a woman, you long like that there's an endearment there with grandfather type figure, the father type figure. And I think Laura Trump has been successful at a lot of that, but I would even up it in the next couple weeks. Just even the grandkids talking about grandpa. And, you know, he's a human. And we've tried to dehumanize him, but he's human. He's a dad, he's a grandpa. And
he seems to be pretty good at it.
And
like
his kids really love
like
him.
him,
I think
right.
you can see a lot from a relationship that a father has with their children. They all have a good relationship with him. They're all supportive of him. They're all cheering him on. I mean, that speaks a lot. It really does. And they're not drug addicts. They're not, you know, they're healthy, well-adjusted adults that are successful. And that speaks a lot to their dad and the way they were raised.
Talking with Rachel. She goes by Conservative Mama. You can follow her on Instagram, X, and YouTube at Conservative Mama there. Let's go to the phone lines. Frank, Denver. Good morning, Frank. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show with Conservative Mama.
Hey, Jeff and Rachel. Rachel, you've been a great addition this morning. I think you got a future if you want to do some more radio.
Thanks.
Good ideas. Hey, you know, I wanted to bring up this last thing tape ahead there, that poor mother that seemed like she was at the end of her rope talking with Trump. But Trump did an interview with Dave Ramsey, and I wonder if you could get any kind of excerpts or pieces of that. You know, Ramsey is so common sense, and I think he invited Kamala too, but I don't think she took him up on it. But I think that Ramsey has a program that on another channel that it's turned into a psych show. There's so many problems in this country revolving around money, but have a psych basis. But he has such a common sense approach, and if people will apply his stuff, they get bailed out and they wind up being successful. So I didn't know if you could pull in the excerpts.
Oh, I thought that was a great interview. And to your point, I'm a Dave Ramsey fan. I've taken Financial Peace University. Get off the credit card debt. Don't buy things you can't afford. I wish every member of Congress would take that and then go into leadership.
Well, he has a comment that when people talk about all this debt there, and he says, sounds like you've been spending like a congressman. And,
that's true.
You know, and that's true. And we've got to get back to a common sense in this country, which is one of the planks of the Republican conservative platform, common sense versus nonsense. And I think if we did that, or he did more of that and pushed more of that, and maybe even put in some programs for people that were struggling. But Ramsey does seem to have a way of getting people out of these crazy predicaments from just some of the bad decisions. But that'd be great if you could play some.
Yep, Frank, I really appreciate it. Great call. Thanks so much. I think you're right. That was a wonderful interview. Go check it out. Donald Trump, Dave Ramsey. And as Frank noted, Kamala Harris isn't going to go on a financial university, financial peace, balance your checkbook, get your credit card debt loan show down. She doesn't have anything to do with it because her plan is spend more. Frank, really appreciate the call. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
another day, it'll still be mild. Temperatures today will
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Billy's out today. He's going to be back tomorrow. And we'll dive right back into it. A special thanks to Rachel, known as Conservative Mama. All right, so tell us, where are you going to take this channel? You've got tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, on X, on YouTube. Lay out your vision. What do you hope to achieve with all this? Where are you taking it?
That's a great question. I kind of feel like I'm in that place. Like, okay, now that, and it's grown organically, to be honest with you, and glory to God, because I really do feel like I am gifted the ideas through him.
And they're hilarious. It's satire based. So she puts on a pink wig and acts like a lib and makes fun of the way they think.
I mean, I don't know exactly. I mean, right now I'm kind of just like, whatever. I'm open to new opportunities. I'm open to what comes next. I do love creating. I love creating content. I love the just taking what I see and exaggerating it a little bit, and then it's basically a mirror. I just hold up a mirror with what I do, and some people receive it, some people hate me for it, but I've gotten used to that side of it. I'm used to the hate. I'm used to the love. It's all good, but I don't know. We'll see, I guess.
Well, comedy is so important, especially with a left that wants to shut down and cancel everybody.
Yeah.
You've seen some of these interviews, Hillary Clinton talking about this, Tim Walz talking about this, that somehow the government has to step in to censor because, God forbid, we might not be able to figure out the truth if it wasn't for government handlers.
No.
You've had to deal with censorship.
I have had to deal with it very heavily. And nowhere in history ever were the good guys the ones that said we need to censor speech. I mean, ever. Like, let people talk and let people argue, and we will. That's how you thrive as a that's how you survive as a free world.
Do you think Elon Musk saved, American democracy by buying X?
I think so. It was so funny because my son was having a conversation with a teacher in this class, was like not sure about Elon Musk, and I think he might have wasted his money. I said, you cannot put a price on free speech. You can't. There's no price that's too great for free speech, because if you take speech, you take away freedom. It's gone. And next is the Second Amendment. And so we have to stand up and be able to speak freely, and may the best argument win. That's how you thrive as a society.
That's how we do it here on the show.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's what makes this program unique. Bill has his perspective. I have mine. We have all the callers as well. It's not a I don't want to say monogram. That's not the right word. Monologue. It's not a monologue for 4 straight hours.
Right. No. Cool.
Well, Conservative Mama, give her a follow on Instagram, X, YouTube. It's been delightful to have you in today.
Thank
you so
it's
much
been a
for
pleasure.
hanging out with me while Bill was out. We hope we can do this again. Bill Thorpe will be back tomorrow, and we'll dive into a whole lot of issues. We're going to be talking about rank choice voting tomorrow. This is a disaster, by the way. If this passes, you're going to see us become way more like California, where you get to pick between a handful of Democrats. Jeez. Because the party infrastructure won't be there anymore. And so it becomes kind of a jungle primary. Plus, where they have tried this, 10 to 15% of ballots get thrown out because you have to rank them. And we've never done this. We don't rank it. And so you got to teach an entire population how to vote again. That's a problem. And then there's one example in California where they couldn't figure out the recount issue. So they had the wrong guy in office for 3 months before they finally cleaned it up. That's all tomorrow with Bill Thorpe. If you missed any of the show, check out the podcast at 710knus.com. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show, Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. Charlie.